We're decking the halls here. This is the big, mega Christmas show. It also was supposed to be the saving grace of a Danny Dimes and Primetime game, the first one since October of 2024. Unfortunately, our guys got a torn Achilles, but we're watching Old Man Rivers, put up a pretty decent fight in one of the more intriguing stories in the NFL. But I'm going to get into a few stats with you right away. The first being that, did you know that? So obviously last night's big story was the Patriots come back against the Ravens.
Yeah.
Did you know that was John Harbaugh's 18th blown fourth quarter lead, the most since 1991?
Wow. That's
and
crazy.
Do you want to know a sadder stat?
What is it?
Do you know that Garrett Wilson is the Jets' leading receiver at 395 yards? And he has not caught a pass since week 6.
That stat I have heard, and that stat is hilarious. And it's a reminder to fantasy players everywhere. I think the biggest rookie mistake you can make in fantasy is on a really bad team, you pick the number one receiver and you say, and obviously Garrett Wilson's great. He's great in fantasy. He's just hurt. But it illustrates the broader point that in fantasy, oftentimes we get a really bad team and we go, okay, the number one target on that team, someone's got to get the ball. Someone's got to get the ball. Someone's got to get the ball. There are teams that their number one option can have like less than 500 yards. Like it is possible, as crazy as it sounds. So don't just grab the number one receiver on any single team. The team has to be good. The player has to be good. The quarterback.
Absolutely. Yeah. But like, because my big thing with that too is just, but there is an exception to the rule yesterday that really came to light. And you and I last we spoke about this, but look what Chris Olave did yesterday against the aforementioned Jets. So,
and Olave, a great player, a former top 12 pick, battled injuries. Like there's reasons you can explain it, you know?
I feel like you always have to hold your breath though when he goes to catch a ball sometimes.
Yep. Then we know it.
And then another one with fantasy. Are we all excited for next year when Kyle Pitts goes to a great organization and the Atlanta Falcons look like fools?
It does seem inevitable that the second team bump is on the come on up. Certainly seems like it.
Yeah, like the way I view the whole Kyle Pitts situation, when everyone's like, where were you for the Kyle Pitts coming out party? And I'm just like, I'm waiting for next year for him to show up, hopefully not to the Kansas City Chiefs, and go from there. But which even them too, and on the news side of things, there's a lot of like stadium news this week. Like, I don't know if you saw the stuff with the Bears, what's going on. The Kansas City Chiefs with a big bombshell today. I think it's kind of gone quiet where essentially, so I watched a couple videos weirdly on TikTok about this. So essentially, the state of Kansas cut them a deal to where they're going to add a sales tax at the stadium. So say if you go to the stadium, you buy a hot dog, you buy a beer, you buy a Patrick Mahomes jersey.
Yeah.
That sales tax is what is going to get the Kansas City Chiefs to pay back the state of Kansas for their new stadium. The proposed land, though, it's not like they're moving terribly far away. It's not like, aforementioned San Francisco, like from Candlestick to Levi's, I think it's like almost an hour drive.
Yeah.
This one, I think, is only about half an hour away from where Arrowhead currently is. But at the same time, too, it seems weird, but I get why the Chiefs did it.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough for the fans there because there's a lot of like Missouri residents that take pride in the fact that that team plays in Missouri, even though. So there's going to be a natural like divide between them and the other fans in Kansas, who are probably also Chiefs fans, just because it's the nearest NFL team they have. But nonetheless, it's a very like dicey thing for the regional conflict there because Kansas and Missouri in college football is like a big time rivalry. So so like in the NFL, I can imagine that creating some like tense uneasiness. But when you're getting the subsidy because of the state law, like it's hard to turn that down. Like I personally think billionaires should foot the bill for every stadium renovation. However, if I was a billionaire and one state offered me a 70% subsidy to do it as a result of a new state law that was passed and the other one does not, like naturally, like any human, you're going to want the discount. So I think it's only fair. And yeah, it's funny that the Chiefs are like out of it right now. If like Mahomes and the Chiefs were like the number one seed in the AFC, like we'd be hearing Mahomes' thoughts about this. We'd be hearing Kelsey's thoughts about this. We'd be hearing Andy Reid. But because it's a lost season, it's just kind of like pushed to the side. It's crazy.
Yeah, and then even on that note, too, I want to pivot quickly because I know obviously football, NFL-wise for you, hasn't been the best this year, but college football, you got to be feeling pretty good, I know it's going to be a tough battle, but I'll say this, though. I think with the Final Eight, there's at least, I would say, 4 to 5 of the teams you can make a legitimate, not excuse, but you can make a legitimate reason as to why they can win the national championship, which, hey, I don't think it's going to be as bad as some of the games we've seen where you get some B to A, kind of like what we saw Saturday afternoon. But like, if we get I think we can get some games like what you guys went through, and then hopefully higher scoring. But or even what happened Friday night with Alabama, Oklahoma. So that's another point I wanted to point out. Just because also too, I saw obviously we know the most notable Miami fan who was in attendance at that game, but yeah, no, it's just it like how do you feel about the U? Because I know it's been a
Yeah.
controversial topic for you.
No, and I was there. I was there in College Station. We were all
Really?
yeah, yeah. We so they played Texas A&M in 2022, and we traveled to that game. So we knew the stadium, we knew the area, we kind of knew how to get in and out. Everyone knew where to get your Airbnbs. Everyone knew what the travel plans would be. We weren't that worried about it. Like it's crazy. Like everything is obviously more and more expensive over time in general, in this country. But
Yeah.
for whatever reason, rental car prices haven't spiked as much as everything else has. So we were able to get a rental car for like a really cheap value, like $60 over like 3 days. It was total, like not per day, total. And so you fly into like Houston or Dallas, and both of those airports are commonly have flights to Miami all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were able to get a reasonably affordable price on the flight and then a cheap rental car. And you buy like you pay like $100 for your ticket and you sit way up top. You sit all the way at the top of the 400 level. But the beauty about college football versus the NFL stadiums we go to, everything's built vertically more so than horizontally. So even when you're sitting way up top, you're kind of getting like a bird's eye view. It's like the sky cam of Thursday Night Football. You can see everything perfectly. Like we were sitting way at the top of the 400 levels because that's all we could afford, and we saw everything perfectly. We have no complaints at all about visibility or seats, anything like that. So yeah, there's only one first-time playoff game. Like maybe in future years when this becomes a regular thing, maybe it'll be like, okay, I will pick and choose which game I travel to depending on, the stadium, the travel, the pricing, all that stuff. But because this was the first ever one, I think a lot of us were like, there's only going to be one first. Like we really don't want to take it for granted because the Canes have not played for the national championship since the 2002 Fiesta Bowl against Ohio State. So we thought this was a worthy travel to do. So yeah, we went and we had a great time. And yeah, it's been an unbelievable season for as bad as the Dolphins have been. And I'm sure we'll talk about them. It is more than made up for the fact that the Canes have the best team they've had in 23 years. And they're in the top 8 that are left still playing. And it's been awesome. They're everything the Dolphins are not. Like they're built on the O-line and the D-line. And they win games. Why did they win that game? Because their D-line dominated Texas A&M's O-line and they ran for 170 yards. In part because Fletcher's great, but also in part because the O-line was really, really dominant as well. So they won the game on the back of their trench play. Like most teams, their identity is usually their quarterback or their star running back or their number one wide receiver or receivers in Ohio State's case. Our identity is the O-line and D-line. We think we have the best in the country. Good luck trying to match us with that. And I would include Ohio State in that conversation. That does not really mean like Ohio State's way better everywhere else. That's where that other stuff, like your corners, like your receivers, like your quarterback, like Ohio State definitely has the advantage there. So doesn't mean we'll win, but I do think that when you have trench play like that, you'll always have a chance. And I'm just, as someone who's been a suffering Canes and Dolphins fan for 25 years, and like I didn't get to live the Dan Marino era. I didn't get to live the 2001 national championship. I didn't get to go to the game. I didn't really watch the game. I didn't really know what was going on. I was too young. It wasn't until the 2002 national championship where I started paying attention. And I started paying attention the year after the Dolphins won their first playoff game in their last playoff game with Jay Fiedler, like freaking 25 years ago. Yep. So we've seen nothing but heartbreak. And for the Canes to give most Canes and Dolphin fans an ounce of joy, it's been really special. And I don't take it for granted at all.
On that note, though, I just want to mention the whole thing about billionaires fronting the bill because I don't think a lot of people realize that Stephen Ross put in a lot of work into that stadium, not just the renovations, but to add the paddocks, to have the Grand Prix in Miami, which brings in the prices like skyrocketed. Like how you were saying the first ever thing, like my dad and his friends went to the first ever race in 22 to where the Airbnbs were reasonably priced. Race tickets weren't crazy expensive. Now that stuff's just skyrocketed. So like for as much as, Stephen Ross on the football side of things, it could be better. For that part of it, I always find that like really neat that, hey, he put in all that effort to get the F1 to come to Miami. And I believe they signed a huge extension for that as well. But no, with the college football champ, like with the playoff, it's weird in the sense that there's some games like honestly, like Alabama, Indiana. I feel like you can make like either side to win. I think it's just like Indiana, like I love the story with Fernando. Like I never really got to hear him talk until the Big Ten championship game. And he just seems like, one of those like down to earth guys where he's just like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm humble. I play football. I'm also not an asshole who goes after people because I lose. Which, yeah, I like the Diego Pavia thing's just another on its own. Like, to basically lash out and act like not be big, make it about yourself. Like, buddy, that's not going to fly in the NFL if he even gets there. But no, I just think Alabama's that weird team where it's like, yeah, they're not the Nick Saban Alabama, but if you give them an inch, they'll take it. That's the one game I think that really is going to intrigue me the most come New Year's Day when I'm doing absolutely nothing and just chilling probably with a hangover. But the only other point I was going to make is for the show today, everybody. So it is Monday, December 22nd. Christmas is Thursday. So what Big Rat and I are going to do is we're going to talk about every single game for week 17. But I'm going to put, as Alec Pierce just got into the end zone for the Colts tie game.
Fair enough. Sorry, I'm play behind you, but all good.
Okay, but the one thing I was going to, it's usually you in front of me, so I get advantage Griff.
Advantage Griff.
But for this game, for this podcast, what we're going to do is each game, I was going to run this by you. Let's talk about that team and hey, season, like what we've seen this season, what we think they can be, et cetera, et cetera. So just hey, first game, for example, that's up because Christmas Day, this is kind of how you can probably watch these games with the Christmas music on, conversing with family and all that stuff. And we get started with Dallas and Washington, where it's probably going to be Josh Johnson against Dak Prescott. Neither team has got nothing really to play for. I'll say this, though, with Dallas, you just have a huge decision to make this offseason as, do you want to make George Pickens your top priority and re-sign him? Because I still feel like if they want to do that, I think there's a really strong chance that CeeDee Lamb is gone from Dallas. And for everyone saying, oh, they won't do that, they moved on for Amari Cooper, no problem, to get CeeDee Lamb, and Jerry's done worse before. So that's what I feel like with there. And then with Washington, they just got younger. They got to get healthier. I don't think Dan Quinn will be let go, but I think it's going to be one of those seasons where it's, hey, next year you have to right the ship, or that seat's going to get warm underneath you. It's back to the NFC Championship, get bright, but be a competitive football team.
It's really a shame, because Christmas Day, Thanksgiving Day in the NFL is so magical, and I really, really loved preparing for DFS for the Thanksgiving Day slate this year. Even though the Ravens Bengals game wasn't as good as it could have been, it was still, you had Lamar, you had Joe Burrow, you had Dak, you had Mahomes, you had Jordan Love, you had Jared Goff. You have stars everywhere.
People losing so much money on betting on Jahmyr Gibbs.
Destroying everybody's fantasy lineups.
Jameson Williams for me. I bet on Jameson Williams because I was like, nothing in the game before. I'm taking JMO.
And then you have Derrick Henry in the night game, who scored on the first drive of the game. Jamar Chase, obviously, and T. Higgins. It was a loaded lineup. So, yeah, but I agree on Washington. They're probably my vote for the most disappointing team. We sometimes get – the NFL is weird like this, where we sometimes get numb to the results of just oh, yeah, the Commanders have been bad all year. J.D. Daniels has been hurt all year, whatever. It's the Commanders have 4 wins. Their win total was at 10.5 or 9.5. Some people had them as a dark horse to win the NFC, and we're just numb to it. We're just numb to, oh, yeah, whatever. That's last year's news. We're going to focus on the NFC West teams, the NFC North teams. It completely slips the consciousness that the season has been this bad. Now, obviously, last year was that good in the other direction. So It's easy to understand why Quinn would get a pass, why Adam Peters would get a pass, et cetera, et cetera. But I think they have real problems, though, because one, they rely on a lot of older players. Going into the season with Zach Ertz,
probably going to retire with
Bobby Wagner, who should be gone, just doesn't have this juice anymore. And then they traded for Tunsil. They got Deebo Samuel. Everyone's only going to get older next year, And maybe if Wagner and Ertz are not on the team, I get it. You can find younger upgrades, but those guys were also the leaders of that team last year, along with Jaden. So I think losing them has an effect too. And Jaden Daniels, I'm trying not to overreact. But I am starting to get really concerned about Jaden Daniels' viability in the NFL. And here's why. He scrambles a lot. And I'm seeing this all across the league. And it's affecting me because, us Dolphin fans, we talk about whether or not you need to have a scrambling quarterback. You need to have a scrambling quarterback. Or at least someone who has functional rushing ability. Obviously, Drake May doesn't need to scramble, but he absolutely can if he wants to. Yeah. Jaden Daniels and Jackson Dart are get injured every other week playing like this. And Jalen Hurts has already told like people in Philly he doesn't want to run that much anymore. I'm starting to wonder that unless you're as big as Josh Allen or as fast as Lamar Jackson, you probably can't scramble all that much. There's still like defenses are too good. Like defenders are getting faster, they're getting stronger, they're getting more violent. Like maybe it's not optimal to have your quarterback scramble a bunch unless they're built like a truck. And I wonder, can Jaden Daniels keep scrambling with the way his frame is? And if he doesn't scramble, is he the same quarterback? Like I'm sure he's still really good. Don't get me wrong. But if you completely remove his ability to scramble, I start to get concerned if he gives you the same impact that he had last year. Like, I'm trying not to overreact, but if you were to ask me who would I rather have over the next 3 years, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, or Caleb Williams, I think I would take Drake May and Caleb. And that's not fair. I understand that. I understand those guys are on really good teams this year, and it's not a fair comparison. And Jaden Daniels had the best rookie season of all time. I shouldn't overreact after 1 year. I know all that.
Yeah.
But I'm really just starting to wonder, because I'm wondering, like, with this Jackson Dart stuff too, getting checked for a concussion every other week. It's like, in today's NFL, everyone says you need to be athletic. Sure, but do you really need to scramble? Because all these guys are getting hurt. Like, I don't know. So, like, I'm concerned for Washington. I agree with you. 1 more year. Don't think it'll matter much for this game. I wouldn't trust Josh Johnson to beat Dak Prescott, even with nothing on the line for either team. But yeah, next year, definitely a lot to think. And hey, maybe for Washington, the more they lose, the better it is. The higher the draft pick is, and then you get if you get Jaden Daniels playing 16 games, coming off a season where you had the 5th overall pick instead of like the 18th overall pick, maybe in the long run, that's better for you. Kind of like San Francisco in 2018 when Jimmy G got hurt and they got a top 5 pick and they got Nick Bosa, and that ended up propelling the Super Bowl team the next year. Maybe they could do something like that. So who knows?
And they also got Deebo Samuel at 33 as well that year. So, it's just all those, like, it's those like weird butterfly effects where it's like, how does one work with the other, where it's like, hey, you're able to get this and get that and get this and get that. The other thing with the whole thing with Daniels and Dart, and I was going to wait to get this with Dart, but how he says, I don't want to change my play style. I'm fast in this. Because in high school, yeah, you're the fastest kid. Hey, in college, you might be the fastest kid. There's about 100 people in the NFL that are going to be faster. They're going to be stronger. They're going to be more physical than you are. It's like they're going to be, and also taller. Like, it's just, hey, you think you're hot? You think you're hot shit? No, in the NFL, there's 100 guys who are built better than you are. I'm going to take the Dallas side of this just because you took the Washington side of the argument. My whole thing with Dallas and of course Buckner, I think. No, JT Tumalomo or someone got hurt on Indy. But with Dallas though, I see some of the stuff they're doing. I think, and also Christian McCaffrey just ripped off a nice about 12-yard run there, by the way.
Nice.
But with Dallas, Brian Schottenheimer seems like the guy they want to play for. I know at first a lot of people laughed at the hiring and they kind of scoffed at it, where it was like, what's Brian Schottenheimer going to do? I think Dallas kind of realized, hey, we screwed up with the Micah Parsons deal, so that's why they went out and got Quinn Williams, got Logan Wilson. The defense really got better from there. But you can't, I just think within a team like Dallas, you just can't treat years of like, how they have gap years where it's like, oh yeah, we can, like last year, obviously Dak got hurt, so it's different. But this year though, like, I just think a lot of what they did was too little too late. Like, one thing I think of with Dallas still is that like game against Arizona, where it was, yeah, you let now one of the worst teams in the league come into your house on primetime and completely wreck you. But then you play Kansas City on Thanksgiving and you handle them no problem. Like Dallas is a very confusing team. They're a very just like, they've got all the pieces together. They know how to, like, I think they know what to do, but I'm still in the same mindset where I take it with WWE where, once the head of the snake cuts off, the grass is going to be greener on the other side for them. I've stood by that take. Obviously, look, WWE this year, it wasn't, I know a lot of people were mad at the product. They were mad about what happened, which I will still say this. What happened last Saturday night was the right call, in my opinion. Just
same. Yeah, same. I agree with you.
The right call. I was expecting it, like, and the part that really made, and just to go off topic, the one thing that really made that moment for me was him kind of just being like, yeah, like just, yeah, this is it. Like, that's how I'm like, when everyone says, oh, he's going to come back, oh, he's going to do this. I'm like, no, that was it. That was Cena's retirement. But no, going back to Dallas though, like next year, you really have to just be able to be competitive. You have to be there because if you look at that division and landscape as a whole right now, I still don't think the Giants are going to be anything next year. They might be. We don't know. It's just, I wouldn't bank on it right now. Washington,
Oh yeah, I just want to say very quickly, and we'll talk about this when we talk about their game. But there's some people that are noting that ever since Brian Dable got fired, Jackson Dart's playing worse. So it's something to think about. But yeah, go ahead, go on Washington.
Yeah, and then for as bad as Philadelphia is, they're going to make the right changes. I still feel like unless they do get back and go back to back, I do think Kevin Patullo will probably be out as OC. DC, you have to figure Vic Fangio staying there. The defense, I don't think, has been the problem this year. It's just more, I think, how he's going to get tested on, hey, how do you manage the roster? What do you do in free agency? What do you do through the draft, trades, etc. And then you have Dallas, where it's kind of like obviously, yes, they're going to be talked about because Jerry loves to put them in the news. But no one's going to be looking at them as a viable threat. And I think for Dallas, that's better, where no one's thinking there's these expectations. Obviously, look, everyone likes to laugh when 1995 now comes up, where it's been 30 years since their last conference championship game. And do you know that every other team in the NFC has played in a conference championship game since 2010 but them?
Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Yeah. So
NFC never had the Brady or Mahomes runs where like one team got to like 7 of them. So it gave room for every other team to have a chance. But yeah, go.
Yeah. So with Dallas now, it's like next year is kind of the year where I'm like, I really think if they don't do anything next year, I think there's going to be some, not blow up, but I think there's going to be some like, hey, they like pivot direction and try to start anew, not a rebuild, but like a retool. If like, unless they're like a competitive team and they just miss out because, like the NFC still is going to be a gauntlet, I think, for the next few years. But that's pretty much what I have to say on the Dallas Cowboys, where I'm just like, you need to have a serious year next year where I'm not saying get to the Super Bowl or get to a conference championship game, but, be in contention for the division this time of the year, be playing meaningful football games in December, especially if the NFL is so content on always putting them in these prime standalone spots. Like they're going to be Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, look, maybe Dallas can take solace in the fact of their defense was historically bad. They're going to fire Matt Eberflus. It's funny. Did you see that thing where Jerry Jones all but already admitted that he's going to fire him? Like someone asked, what would you do about how would you categorize how would you handle the tough decision about what to do with the defensive coordinator? And he said, I wouldn't categorize it as tough. He basically fired him. He basically said, yeah, we're going to get rid of him. And so you could think like 2020, the first year with Mike McCarthy. Yes. Dak got hurt, but their defense was like historically terrible. And they fired Mike Nolan, I think it was, as the defensive coordinator. That's a real.
Mike Zimmer was last. Mike Zimmer was in 22 or 23.
No, Mike Zimmer was 24.
Oh, 24. Excuse me.
Yeah, 22 and 23 were both still.
Okay, that's right. That was Dan Quinn, and then Mike Zimmer got brought in, and then Mike Zimmer got fired after last year.
Yeah, so Mike Nolan had a historically bad defense in 2020, but the offense was like electric. It was just hard to tell sometimes because Dak was hurt. But the next year, they fired Mike Nolan. Dak stayed healthy. They brought in Dan Quinn, and all of a sudden, they won 12 games. So now maybe you can't find someone as good as Dan Quinn that quickly. But if they can, it just goes to show that this could turn around pretty quickly. If they re-sign Pickens and they get a new DC, then I think Dak, CeeDee, and Pickens will do what they've been doing. They'll maybe throw another draft pick on the offensive line. And if you could just get a better defensive coordinator, maybe this thing does improve. Maybe this thing does get better than we think. So, yeah, that's their hope for next year at least.
Absolutely. And then with this game, too, like I said, with Washington, like you nailed it all in the head. Also, for my thing, too, it's a huge year next year just because Jaden Daniels is going to be playing for that fifth-year option. So that's the big thing. Like, I think right now with those 2020, I know the 2024 class is great for quarterbacks. I think there's only 3 guys right now who you can bank on saying, hey, the fifth-year option is more than likely going to be picked up, or they're going to be signing a monster deal after next year. One's obviously Drake, the other's Caleb, and I would already think Bo Nix is going to be in that option. We'll just wait to see how the rest of the year plays off because I still have some stuff about the Denver Broncos I'm going to get off my chest later, actually, and after this next game. Where Detroit goes to Minnesota. Detroit, I can't believe this. They're hanging on by a thread. 8-7. It hasn't been the best year. They're in a similar situation as Brock Purdy scrambles for the first down. But I think with the Detroit Lions, though.
You're not ready to quit the Detroit Lions? Is that what you said?
No, I'm not ready to quit them. I have a take on them that I think I've been thinking about all day.
Well, I think their defense needs work. Their defense.
I think there's a big offensive move made that people aren't going to see coming.
Yeah, and their offensive line also it's not quite been the same ever since Ragnar retired. So, yeah, it's tough. The Bears got a lot better. The Packers traded for Micah Parsons. So taking any step back was going to be precarious given the division that they were in. So I feel for them in one sense. And sometimes it's just hard. It's hard to make these deep playoff runs where you're giving 100% effort and you're going like 9 wins, 10 wins, 11 wins, 12 wins every single year. Sometimes it's just really, really hard to sustain that year over year. Like we saw the Niners last year, just kind of be exhausted and need a break. I think the Chiefs are going to benefit a lot from a season where they don't go to the conference championship game or the Super Bowl, and they can actually, everyone can rest and like take a whole off season like with their families instead of not being free until mid-February, which obviously everyone wants to play in the Super Bowl. But when you play in the Super Bowl every single year, it's just draining. It's exhausting. So I think them taking a step back could power them for the future. It's just a question of, can they rebuild the offensive line? Can they get better luck on health on defense? Like losing Brian Branch really, really hurt them. A lot of the cornerback injuries they were dealing with all year really, really, really hurt them. Can they do something to kind of like keep it intact? So
they're really utilizing Christian McCaffrey, by the way, right now in this game.
No. I'm slightly. I can be spoiler free because I'm slightly caught up, slightly.
Okay,
so
okay.
But yeah. You're still ahead, but just not as much as you were before.
No, the way I look at the Detroit Lions, like it wouldn't shock me to see like a David Montgomery not be on the team next year. You know, like give the keys to the Ferrari to Jahmyr Gibbs, especially when they're going to have to re-sign him this offseason. I also think that if after next year, I think if they don't get it done, do you look at doing the quarterback thing? Because I think there's still like there's certain teams in the NFL right now, like kind of we're watching one now where they are playing good, but for the playoffs, I still think with the Niners, they'll go as far as Brock will take them. And I still kind of think the same thing with Jared Goff and the offense with Detroit. Like you have all these great pieces surrounding him, and also obviously losing Laporta sucked. But with Jared Goff, we saw him in that NFC Championship game crumble. We saw him last year in the divisional round against the Commanders crumble. This year, he hasn't really had too many of those like spotlight games where you look on it and say, hey, they won because of Jared Goff. Like you look at the Giants games because Jahmyr Gibbs is a psychopath. You know, you look at some of the other games like Dallas, it was just kind of they were in a shootout and they were the better team offensively. But no, with Detroit, and I know I started banging the drum a little bit about what happens to Dan Campbell's future. I do think if they do miss the playoffs entirely, that drum's going to start to get banged, I think, locally within Michigan sports talk. But the rest of the NFL is not going to do it. I think they're just kind of waiting. I just think because you know how it was, hey, he was brought here to take us to the promised land. We almost got there, but we've regressed ever since losing that NFC Championship game last year. 15-2 years, sure, got dog walked in the divisional round. This year, it's a tough year. Next year, you got to play the AFC East. You know, you got two, you have two, maybe three. We'll see what happens. Good teams coming in. We'll see what happens. But yeah, with Detroit, I just think you're in a San Francisco touchdown. We can do this.
Fuck. You got me excited.
Sorry. I'm just excited for the spread. Excited for the
spread. I know. I need McCaffrey to probably get me 3 touchdowns, and he's probably not going to get 3. So, how many San Fran going to score? It's not like San Fran's going to score 40, right? There's a set amount of points available to be had here. So
the game's already going to hit the over under. But then with Minnesota though for this, I think there's not a lot wrong. That defense I think is very underrated. By the way, I think Dallas Turner very underrated on the edge. Their offensive line, they did a great job retooling it this offseason. Brian O'Neill, I think, is one of the more underappreciated right tackles in football. Just, the work he gets done, his longevity. They obviously changed up Ryan Kelly at center. They let Garrett Bradbury walk. He's somewhere much better now. But, you have Justin Jefferson. You have TJ Hawkinson. Jordan Addison, I think he's really having a coming out party this year as well. I just think you need to have some serious quarterback competition in that room to help McCarthy through. Who that might be, I don't know yet. We'll get into that later. But I think Minnesota will be fine. But I do think, though, if they don't take any improvements, I think there's a chance that, true house cleaning is coming for both Kwesi and KOC. For as good as KOC's been. But, you're supposed to get the quarterback right. In the quarterback class that's proving to be elite, if you're the guy who's the 6th out of 6, it's not really a good job.
Yeah, and it's...
Also, I like Detroit in the get right spot here.
He also always gets hurt, too. That. And I think it's hard... The Dolphins put up with Tua's injury history because Tua was playing so well before this year, of course. Yeah. Like when there's questions about your play and you're also hurt all the time, that's a big ask on the organization, because now for next year for this organization, it's not as much to be like, well, as long as JJ's healthy, we'll be fine. No, you don't know that. You have questions about his play too. So, I mean, I liked JJ coming out. Like, I'm rooting for him. I hope that they figure some things out. But it's just kind of tough when you have to deal with concerns about play and concerns about quarterbacks. So, it's really unfortunate on Christmas Day. Everyone with their families, you want to watch some football, and 3 of the 6 quarterbacks that are going to be playing are Josh Johnson, Max Brosmer, and Chris Otolodikin.
Yes. I did not know who he was until this morning.
Yes. So it's tough. Yeah, I think Detroit probably almost certainly will win. Like they won't miss out on this opportunity to like potentially, because they're not dead yet for the playoffs. Now, yeah, it requires the Packers losing out and them winning out. Now, if the Packers don't have Malik Willis either, on top of maybe not having Jordan Love, it does get a little interesting. But either way, I think you get the Lions' best effort here. This seems like a Lions like bounce back spot big time. So I agree with you there.
The Frank Ragnow one's interesting too, because I feel like he was probably just sitting on his couch drinking beers and fishing, and then they said to him, "Hey, Frank," or he's like, "Hey, I want to get in football shape." Probably did some sprints, blew his hammy out, and was just like, "Hey, I'm not really that healthy to come play football."
Yep. I want to believe that he like tried. Yeah. I want to believe that like he tried, and then he like did some wind sprints and was like, "Oh shit, fuck! I didn't realize it'd be this hard."
Exactly. But no, with both teams though, like I don't know if you have anything else to add, but I think Detroit, like I think they'll be there next year. I just think years like this for them also too can't be the worst thing, because you know how it's like, because if they can win, even if they win out, they finish 10-7. I know they have to go to Chicago week 18, but by then Chicago, you don't know if they're going to be benching people or not. So I think for for Detroit, it's just a chance to finish strong, have a good showing, because there's also a good chance that Bears-Lions game is in a 425 spot come week 18 as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's remember early in the season, they played week 2 and the Lions dropped 50 on them. Can you imagine thinking after that game that the loser of that game was going to be the team that wins the NFC North this year? Like it's crazy. And like we've known this, it's a reminder to everyone, like these seasons, as short as football season is, the ebbs and flows of how we view teams like takes so long. Like the Packers in weeks 1 and 2 beat up the Lions.
Fell to the Lions.
The Lions and the Commanders. And everyone thought they were the locked-in Super Bowl team. And here we are where they may not win their division. They may drop out of the playoffs if Jordan Love doesn't come back. Like it's crazy. It's just crazy.
Do you want to know in that game, Jared Goff went 23 for 28, 334 yards, 5 touchdowns with a 156 passer rating. And Amon-Ra St. Brown caught 9 balls for 115 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Wow. That's sick. That is really, 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 I know. It's crazy. It's crazy how things ebb and flow.
Denver and Kansas City. Look, I'm with you on Kansas City to an extent, but I still think they do need some soul searching to do to figure out who they are. Because I know he's been talking about saying, I do think Travis Kelce's gone after this year. I think he's retiring. I think it's just like, you know what? It's hang it up. Like some of the plays he was making, especially in that Houston game, I'm just like, brother, this ain't it. This ain't it. And then for the rest of it, though, it's just I think Chris Jones is still good. I just think I don't know if he's that all-pro level defensive lineman anymore. And that's not knocking him. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. But for them, they have to figure out wide receiver. They have to figure out, I guess, tight end. I know they still have Noah Gray, but Noah Gray is not Travis Kelce. Running back. There's a lot of holes to figure out, and I hated the comparison to Brady's ACL injury because that was week 1, 15
plays. That wasn't midway through the year.
This is week 15, and it's also weird. I don't know if you saw this, but the team doctor for the Dallas Cowboys, the guy who wears the cowboy hat on the sidelines, is the one who did his ACL repair surgery, who also did Dallas Star forward Tyler Sagan's ACL that same week. So, fun fact there. But I still think, like, Kansas City, if they're looking at this, you can't look at this as just, hey, we got to fix it next year. We got to go. We're going to go back to the Super Bowl. You have to think like that 5-year window. You have to think, hey, how do we stay competitive for the next 5 years? Because you're looking at your conference as a whole now. The Broncos and the Chargers aren't scared to play you. There's a chance that you go 0-4 against those teams.
Yeah.
Buffalo's still Buffalo. You've got the Patriots are back to being, what the Patriots were. We'll see. We'll get into them in a little bit. You got the Colts. The Colts, I think, will be back next year. You got the Jags. The Jags having a great year. They'll probably be still relevant. The Texans, and hell, who the hell knows what happens in the AFC North? But with the Kansas City Chiefs, you have to look at it from the perspective of, hey, how do we get better so we can be consistently competitive? We don't have to go to the Super Bowl 5 or 6 years, but we always want to be playing on divisional weekend, have that hope to play championship Sunday to potentially get back to the Super Bowls. Because I think at this point, it's going to be really hard for Mahomes to catch to the 7, but I still think that this year for them is a blessing in disguise, like we were talking about earlier, because it's, hey, our bodies are banged up. We've been playing forever. Luck didn't go our way this time. And now you can sit back, get healthy. It's going to be hard for me to think that Pat's going to be Pat come week 1 next year, just because the timing of the injury. If this had happened in September or October, be singing a different tune. But look at Tank Dell. He hurt us at the same time, literally a year ago, and he's already been ruled that he didn't play at all this year. I'm not saying Pat's not going to play next year, but just that physical recovery, the mental recovery of it all is going to be something to overcome. And one thing that I really wonder about with him, how you see all the jokes about like, oh, dad bod, he's a little out of shape. I really wonder if he locks in on his health and fitness, kind of like Tom did after his ACL injury as well. That's where Tom really became the TB12 psychopath we've come to know him as now. So that's just my thing with Kansas City. I still think they're going to be that team. It's just, you have to figure out, how do we get back to being that team that, hey, we're the Chiefs, deal with it, instead of just, this is the new Chiefs, we're not that good anymore.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And the ACL recoveries, it makes you go through physical therapy. It almost makes you like try to get more in shape. So like I can see how that's a benefit. But I'm fully with you that Mahomes also tore his LCL and his ACL, like you said. And I think Ayuk also did that when Ayuk tore his last year, and he never came back. Now, granted, yes, there was contractual problems with San Fran wanting to get a divorce from the organization. I get that. But the point is,
and him being a weirdo driving 90 miles outside the stadium, yes.
Like Stefania Bell said, because Stefania Bell for ESPN, she has like her doctorate in physical therapy, and she says she does a show in August every year talking about the fantasy guys that are coming off injury, like Godwin, Ayuk, you know the stuff where the guys on PUP, he may not come back till week 7. How reasonably can we expect them to come back? She does a really good stuff on this. And I remember for Ayuk, she said that what a lot of fantasy managers don't often realize is there's a huge difference between clean ACL tear and ACL plus MCL or ACL plus LCL. And I think people see Mahomes' ACL tear and think he can come back next year, not realizing that it's an ACL and an LCL tear. This could be a very long recovery. Like I think the Chiefs probably need to be in the quarterback market this offseason, because I don't think I know they're paying Mahomes a ton of money, and that makes it hard to do. Although they have Mahomes on that crazy 10-year contract, so they can roll over future cap hits as well as any team in the league can. I think
they're restructuring.
Say it again?
He's good at restructuring too.
Yes, and so I think they, more so than anyone else, like no one's really mentioning them in these quarterback potential destinations. I think they got to really like seriously think about this. I think it can't just be like some 3rd round draft pick or like a Jacoby Brissett or a Gardner Minshew. Like I think you actually have to like treat it seriously. Treat it like you might need this person to start 2 to 3 months. So I think they're a quarterback contender name that not a lot of people are talking about.
Like a day 2 or day 3 guy, like not saying round 1. Like round 1, like obviously we're talking about the Canes before, but like this is if you need a defensive edge, this is the year to go get one. Like New England needs it. Ruben Bain's probably going to be a top 5 pick. Yeah.
Akeem, and low key, to any football fan listening to this, Akeem Mesidor, the edge rusher opposite of Ruben Bain, is just as good. He will not get drafted as high because he doesn't have the physical stuff that Ruben Bain does. And Ruben Bain's a lot younger than Mesidor is. Mesidor's in his 5th year in college football. But keep that name in mind, because Akeem Mesidor is going to be a stud too at the next level. And you could probably get him a round or 2 later than you can get Bain. So that's one little nugget out there for everyone.
Yeah, and there's also just the factors as well. Just because the guy goes round 2 or round 3, everyone's going to be like, oh, this guy's this. He's not round 1. Where a lot of the times people don't realize round 1 talents flame out as often as round 2 or round 3 talent, just because you're going – because basically how the draft works is, I always say this too, Thursday, you hit on Thursday, you're doing your job. You're succeeding at your job if you hit on a Friday pick or a Saturday pick. That's how the NFL draft works. And then with the Denver Broncos, I still say this where with Bo Nix, it's that Drew Brees in the sense of Sean Payton's wired the robot to do the things he wants him to do. I still think after yesterday, they will go as far as Bo takes them. I know Bo still had a good day, but I feel like if they're not on their P's and Q's, that's when they can get into trouble. I do think they win this game no problem because, like I said, if you lose to a quarterback on Christmas Day that no one's really heard of before, you're in a little bit of trouble. And also, too, for everyone, and the other thing I'll say at the Kansas City point, I love with your quarterback point, it's kind of like with the Patriots, bringing in Garoppolo, bringing in Jacoby Brissett in 2014, like bringing in these guys that, hey, have his backup situations, which kind of the Patriots had to end up doing in 2016 when Brady was suspended for the first 4 games. And look, they went 3-1. You have a bad backup. That could have been 1-3 or 2-2. Who knows? But no, with the Denver Broncos, like it's just kind of keep doing what you're doing. It's just to me, they're at the point where I'm like, I'm gonna judge the Denver Broncos come January. We're going to, so that's the thing with me with Denver now. That's the only thing I've really to say on them is just, hey.
Especially if you're the number 1 seed, like as you know this as well, expectations change. Maybe at the start of the year, just winning the division, and going like 11-6 and winning the division, that's alone a successful season. But now when you're the number 1 seed potentially, and you're already in the divisional round, so it's not like you get the benefit of winning a playoff game in the first round. Standards change. Like you lose that 1 seed game, fans are going to be upset. So now, all of a sudden, without you even realizing it, now your conference championship or bust, and you are all of a sudden you're like the Chiefs now. Yeah. Like that's the curse that being the 1 seed brings you. Where if you lose that game, it kind of feels like a letdown. It kind of feels like a missed opportunity. Just ask the Lions last year about that. So, yeah, the Broncos very, very quietly are in like a very, very serious situation, and we'll see if they deliver. The defense is good enough. I think Denver's a really hard place to play. I think it's going to be hard for a lot of those teams to walk in there and not be rattled by the atmosphere.
I know a lot about that.
So, yeah, like I think it's a tough place to play. It's a tough defense to play against. And we'll see with Bo. It's hard to say with Bo Nix. He's very inconsistent. Like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he plays well in the Denver games in the playoffs. They get to the Super Bowl, but then he plays terrible in the Super Bowl. Like, would not shock me at all because he's been really bad outside of the home field. And, like when they play Green Bay, like you watch him in that Green Bay game and you're like, oh, he's figuring out. He's finally coming along. But then you watch him against Jacksonville the very next week and it's not the same. It's constantly up and down and up and down and up and down. The underlying numbers look good. They look really good. But his ADOT, like with the scheme they run, I don't know. We'll see. It's a mystery. I don't think they're in trouble this game, though. No. I think home against Oladikin, I understand everyone in
Arrowhead, by the way. It's not in Denver.
Oh, that's right. My bad. Because the game a few weeks ago was in Denver. Either way, I still think they're in no trouble against Oladikin. And I also think in general with the Chiefs, you kind of saw this with the Niners last year. Once they were eliminated, they still fought, but then you start putting guys on IR. Like Rashee Rice didn't play last week. I don't know if he's going to come back this week. Like the guys that are banged up, you don't really like give them like a second look. So I don't know if the Chiefs are going to have the fight necessary to win this game. And as a result of that, I think Denver will probably win, will probably advance. And then I think, look, everyone in America, everyone is going to parlay Lions, Cowboys, Broncos. Everyone's going to do it because it's 3 good teams against 3 backup quarterbacks. So I understand that it's kind of a sucker's play, but I would still do it. I would be very surprised if any of the 3 teams that are actually playing their starting quarterback lose. Like, I'd be surprised if Dak lost to Josh Johnson. I'd be surprised if the Lions lost to Max Brosmer. I'd be really surprised if the Broncos lost to Chris Oladikin. So I think just money line parlay the 3 favorites, and I think you can get a good number and buy someone a nice little Christmas present.
We'd like to hear it. And then Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening, hell of a sports day. I have a take right now in the NFL with this game featuring one of these teams. I don't want to see the LA Chargers in the playoffs. I really think they're getting hot at the right time, and they're playing hardball football. I know what you're saying, like, hey, like Bo Nix is playing what Sean Payton wants him to do. This is a team that just will not quit. Like, they should have lost that Eagles game. The Chiefs game was a little bit wonky. Yesterday was a bit of a trap line with everything that happened against Dallas, where I was like, why were they plus 2.5 in that game? And then with Houston, I really think if you get them into a shootout situation, you will beat them. If you can get that defense, I think it's easy to beat them. But if you're in a low scoring affair with them where that defense can make a few plays, kind of like what we saw against Kansas City, even though that was their own stupidity, that's where I think they'll thrive. Just because I think with CJ Stroud, it's been the same thing for the last couple of years now, where he'll have a game where he looks great and they'll have a game where he just looks terrible. Because like that second half against Kansas City, until Kansas City did the fuck around and find out play on fourth down, he was not playing well. You know?
I agree. The only problem, look, the Chargers, they've been playing a lot better the last few weeks. They certainly are getting dangerous. I struggle with them because I wonder if in the playoffs, as much as they've made it work without Joel and Slater the last 2 weeks, I can't shake the feeling that in the playoffs they are going to see pressure no matter what. Like, it does not matter how they look this month of December. In the playoffs, at some point, Herbert will be pressured on like 70% of his dropbacks like he was against the Eagles.
Yep.
And even though they won that Eagles game, they were at home. They barely won. They needed overtime and 5 turnovers from Jalen Hurts to win. I think if something like that happens again, where Herbert is pressured on 60, 50% of his dropbacks, I don't think they'll win. I think it's just it's a tough ask for any quarterback, not just him. So for as good as they look right now, and look, we have to put it in perspective. Ultimately, the Chiefs are not going to the playoffs. If Mahomes didn't get hurt, who knows? I mean, they probably would have at least tied that game because Mahomes wouldn't have gotten picked off like Minshew did on the last drive. They would have at least gone overtime. So Mahomes are out. The Chiefs are out of the playoffs. The Cowboys are out of the playoffs. This week is more of a real test because they're playing a team that can directly challenge that offensive line. And I would be very, very impressed if they can block the Houston edge rushers. I don't think they're going to, but no. Yes, I think both these teams are dangerous. And I mean, the reason why all these teams are dangerous is because the Broncos and the Patriots haven't had a lot of recent playoff success. Neither's won a playoff game since 2018 for the Patriots, the 2015 Super Bowl for the Broncos. Yep. So that alone means that the road teams are going to be in it because they're inexperienced and they're on the road, but they're playing another inexperienced playoff team. So yeah, I think it definitely leaves the door open for any of these wildcard teams to go on a run. I'm just going to default to Denver being my favorite in the AFC. No one likes it. It's boring, but at least they have home field advantage. That's going to be my logic. And then we'll see with these other teams. Jacksonville starting to catch my attention a little bit, I will admit.
Yeah. The thing with when I'm saying that with the Chargers is I think they'll be more dangerous if they're a wild card as to oppose being the AFC. If they like sneak their way into an AFC West championship, which obviously, look, selfishly, I want to get the 1 seed. But I think for the Chargers, it's almost more beneficial to go on the road and have those doubt seeds planted. Everyone's like, oh, they're not going to do this. They're not going to do that, to where
it's very possible they play your Patriots because I think they're losing this week to the Texans. And I think it's very possible. Like, I think if they lose and the Broncos win the division, I think. But if your Patriots win, and I mean, they're playing the fucking Jets, like, with all due respect, I think the Broncos, I think, still have to play week 18, their starters, because they still have to play for the 1 seed. So I think there's just looking at the logic, I think there's a very, very real world where the game is what's I going to say? Patriots, Chargers in the 2-7. I think that's very possible. More possible than people are probably accounting for right now.
Yeah, I've been saying to myself, I want that to be the Texans at 2-7. Also, just because Patriots, I know it's a different Texans team, but we always had good playoff success against Houston. But I'm saving that. I'm saving my Patriots takes for there. But with Houston, though, I just think that they're in a real prove-it year because if Stroud is the reason why they don't succeed in the playoffs, I'm not saying you question it, but I'm saying I don't think you give them that max extension right away. I think you pick up the 5th year and see where things go, to where it goes from there. Also say this, I think that Charger-Bronco game is a big candidate for one of those Saturday ESPN primetime games, probably the Saturday night one, the 8 o'clock game. Just because, like, when I'm looking at it right now, the only thing, unless stuff goes haywire this weekend, I feel like the only thing that'll really be on the line this coming, like, that weekend is going to be more for seeding. Like, I also can, like, I think when you and I go, we duke it out week 18, it's probably going to be a 1 o'clock window game on the Sunday. Like, I just look at it right now where I'm like, there's probably not going to be a lot to play for, and then we'll probably end up with Tampa, Carolina on Sunday Night Football next week, which is awesome. But yeah, and then as for this one, though, like, I do want to go Chargers, but I just do, like, you're kind of swaying me to where I'm like, you know what? Houston will make the plays to get to the pass rush. It's just a matter of how does that Charger defense play against CJ Stroud? And yeah, there's not a lot to say about this game. It's going to be a fun game, though. And then,
I agree.
Yeah. But Saturday night,
they can't play each other in the playoffs. Most likely, I know Houston can still win the division, but I think for Houston to win the division, it requires like the Jaguars losing to the Titans, which would be like a big ask. But you never know. It's week 18. Weird things happen. So they can't play each other in the playoffs, but it's still a playoff game preview because it's two playoff caliber teams. So
yeah. And then Saturday night is actually my favorite kind of game, which is loser leaves town. As Green Bay and Baltimore go head to head. Green Bay, heartbreaking loss Saturday night to the Bears in a game where I won a great parlay. Bears money line plus Eagles -6.5. And then you have the Ravens, who, I don't know, decided not to play Derrick Henry for most of the fourth quarter last night and have a little bit of issues with the fumbles. And Phillip Rivers airing one out too. Missed Josh Downs. I was hoping it was because if Michael Pittman Jr. gets a touchdown here, I will not be mad because obviously that's our favorite receiver. But yeah, I have to assume Baltimore, but I feel like if Baltimore misses the playoffs, I know a lot of people want Harbaugh fired, but do we really think that's the route you go down? Where I look at it, I'm like, who do you bring in to fix that team? That's where I'm like with Baltimore. I think they're gonna face a true. I know I was saying, Kansas City is a bit of an identity crisis. I think the Ravens have a true identity crisis heading into the 2025 offseason, going into 26.
It's tough. I mean, they had a lot of high expectations this year, and they've really underwhelmed. They've underwhelmed when Lamar has played too. Like it's tough. It's tough.
Do you think he wants to go home to play, even though there's?
I mean, there were people that said, there were a lot of people that said, if the Steelers were to not win the division, Mike Tomlin, Pittsburgh, maybe the message has gone stale, maybe he's just been there too long, et cetera, et cetera. So that could also be true for Baltimore and Harbaugh. They fired Brian Billick, who won a Super Bowl with them in the mid-2000s. Sometimes you need a change of pace. Sometimes you need a fresh voice. And this whole thing about them blowing these fourth quarter leads, it just happens too often. Like it happens too often for you to start to wonder if this is just their identity now. And maybe this is just something they need to figure out how to handle. So yeah, like I think it's very, very tough, but I would not shock me at all if they do make a change, not because they think the next head coach would be better, just because it's grown stale, just because it's time for a new change of pace. Again, doesn't mean the next guy is going to be any good, but sometimes teams get tired of doing the same thing over and over again. Your Patriots moved on from Belichick. The Eagles moved on from Andy Reid. People have moved on from better coaches than John Harbaugh.
I was just thinking, do we think it takes? So they're right now they're 7-8. If they finish 8-9, or I think if they finish 7-10, then the nail's in the coffin. But I think if they were like staring 4 or 5 wins, if they were in the same situation that the Bengals were in right now, I think we're having a different conversation, like as it's probably going to happen. But I really think that, hey, you have to try it. Basically, the whole, you can't knock it until you try it is the motto I think that you got to look at for the Baltimore Ravens. And because I think if they win to then going into Pittsburgh and that's how you lose, your season loses out by, you have an embarrassing game against probably your most feared rival. I know feared is a weird word to use, but you know what I mean? Like just like overall the team that, you don't like to play against, they don't like you, we don't like them, the fans hate it. And you have that. It's just, there's a lot. They really have a soul searching. Because, look, there was the talk I know 2 years ago apparently about do we get rid of Harbaugh now and do we promote Mike McDonald within to where we're going to talk about him next? But the success he's having in Seattle right now, like really, holding true. But yeah, watching the game last night, like, I'll be honest with you, I was super pessimistic when we were down 11. I'm like, you know what? All right, chalk. This game's chalk. Let's just go next week, try to finish with the division. And then they just took their foot off the gas and the Patriots took full advantage. So, yeah, and that's for a game like this. I'm going to go Green Bay just because the way that Chicago won that game was really goofy to where I think Green Bay is the better team to respond in a situation like this. Because also, too, for Green Bay, I think a Green Bay loss is more consequential for them than a Baltimore loss is for the Ravens. Because we pretty much know if Baltimore loses, that's it, unless the Browns beat Pittsburgh. That's all I really got to say about this game.
Yeah, I do think the Browns can beat Pittsburgh this week. We'll get there. I'll explain why. So I think the Ravens still have faint hope that if they win, they can do it. But I think if Jordan Love plays, the Packers are going to win. If Malik Willis plays, it's 50-50. If Malik Willis doesn't play, then I think it gets interesting. Then I really do think it gets interesting for Baltimore. So I can't really give a prediction. I think it's going to depend on which quarterback's playing. So we'll find out later this week.
Seattle versus what is now the upstart Carolina Panthers team. A team, I'll be honest with you, I've been saying this. I know Mike Vrabel's up for coach of the year. I know Liam Cohen, Mike McDonald. I really feel like Dave Canales is really falling through the cracks of, the job him and Dan Morgan have done with this organization. The fact they've gone, because if you think about it, you look at that Panther logo on the helmet, you think an irrelevant team who's been terrible. You think David Tepper and all his shenanigans. You think just coach going to Matt Rule's house and giving him way too much money to come coach your team for him to leave and go coach mini Patrick Mahomes in Lincoln, Nebraska. To where now you have an established program with a really good team. Bryce Young, I don't think Bryce Young's the guy who's going to be top five, like a top five elite guy, but he's going to be a serviceable quarterback that I feel like you can give an extension to, where he'll be the guy that gets the job done. I just think the important thing is always have a competent backup behind Bryce, just, knock on wood for injury. But the way these guys have built this team is really solid. There's no complaints there. Tet McMillan, good Lord, hell of a ball player. Derek Brown, I think, is one of the more underappreciated defensive tackles in football. He finds a way to get to the quarterback every game. And then you have, and then what was I going to say? And then on Seattle's side, you have a team that looks, I don't know if I'm ready to say the real deal, but you have a team that looks like they can compete with anyone. And I was really worried about just, Sam Darnold, because he had the one bad game where I still look at it, that 4-pick game in November, but they only lost by 2. That's where I still looked at it, where I'm like, hey, they still found a way to win last week. Yeah, they had to get the Rashid Shaheed punt return, but they found a way to win. And we always say this, good teams know how to win and bad teams know how to lose. I do like the Seattle Seahawks here. I think the Seahawks are kind of judged, and with these two teams, Seattle's going to be the same thing. They're going to be judged on what they do in January because of what their record is and the wins they've gotten. And then Carolina, they're kind of a house money team to where if they make the playoffs and everyone's going to be like, oh, if you win the division, you can get killed in the wild card round. Any Panther fan's going to take that. Any Panther fan will take a division title after the 5 years of mediocrity they've gone through. It's been terrible since Super Bowl 50, essentially. I know the one year they made the playoffs, but still. And then, next year they're going to be that team, where everyone's going to kind of be now, hey, it's not just, it's the Carolina Panthers. Now it's like, it's the Carolina Panthers. We gotta buck up against them.
It's a shame that I want them in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make it, though, in my opinion. I could be wrong on this, but this is a really, really tough ask. To beat Seattle, to clinch the division, that's a big
I think they cover the spread, though. It's 7.5 right now.
Yeah. I wouldn't. Then, Seattle's coming off a really emotional game. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Seattle, yes, they need to win to keep the division and the number 1 seed. But they had the Rams last week and they had the Niners next week. A big, big difference in quality of opponent. It seems like, assuming the Niners hold on to win tonight, it seems like we're getting Seattle, San Francisco, Week 18, Sunday Night Football, because the winner of that game would win the division and the 1 seed. The San Francisco 49ers, it is crazy. No one's talking about it. The San Francisco 49ers could still be the 1 seed in the NFC.
I still think they're the most, I said earlier, the Chargers are a team you don't want to see in January.
Oh, yeah.
You do not want to see the Niners in January.
No. And I think I and many other people, we wrote them off because no Nick Bosa, no Fred Warner. So they're done. But offensively,
heartbeat of that defense, Fred Warner.
Yeah, but offensively, I will say, offensively, even without Brandon Ayuk, and even without Deebo Samuel, they just make it work. They make it work with McCaffrey and Kittle. They make it work with McCaffrey, with Kittle, and Kendrick Bourne, getting DeMarcus Robinson involved, Pearsall, even though he's not playing tonight, but when Pearsall's healthy, it's the ultimate testament to scheme where they just know how to power through. So, but anyways, I think it's a big ask. I think Carolina can keep it close, and we'll get to our game. But the Bucks have no shot of losing this week, none. So I think we're going to get Tampa Bay, Carolina, Week 18 for the division, and that game will be in Tampa Bay. The first game was in Carolina. One of my hard, fast NFL rules we always talk about on the show. You've seen it over and over again this year. It is so hard to sweep a division opponent twice in 3 weeks. It almost never happens. And we saw it with freaking the Ravens and the Bengals.
Yeah.
Yes, we saw that. That was
Bears,
2 and 3 weeks. Bears, Packers, that was also 2 and 3 weeks. And then it wasn't 2 and 3 weeks, but it was like 2 and 4 weeks or 2 and 5 weeks. Niners, Rams, where the Niners beat them on Thursday Night Football, and then they lost like 3 weeks later. Like, it is really
Giants, Eagles too, even though it's lesser extent.
Giants, Eagles, but even then, though, that's like an NFC playoff team against like the worst team in the NFL, and the Giants still beat them. It's really hard to beat a team twice in 3 weeks. So unfortunately for Carolina, especially with the rematch being in Tampa Bay, I think the Bucs win this week. Carolina loses, and then they'll probably put them like on Saturday night next week, like Saturday night for the division is probably when we would see it.
So just to let you know right now, also too, the fun fact, so there are 41 points right now. That is the most in the first half on Monday Night Football since that epic Rams-Chiefs game from 2018.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they just flashed the graphic.
That's a crazy stat. Wow.
And then the other stat that was up is, or the other thing that happened is Eddie Pinheiro literally hit a 64-yard field goal off the crossbar. So like the middle crossbar there.
Yeah, I posted it.
But yeah, no, like if I had the plan right now, I would say like I would probably put Bucks, like that Panthers Bucks game just screams that 4:30 Saturday ESPN spot, and then you put Denver in LA,
and then you close Sunday with San Fran, Seattle.
Yeah, that makes the most sense for that to happen there. But then for this game, I think Seattle wins, but the Panthers get the cover. Panthers also do 5-2 at home this year, by the way.
Yep, they beat the Rams at home. They're much better at home. The Panthers are. Unfortunately, you have to go at Seattle.
Yes. Next up, we have Cincinnati and Arizona. Jonathan Gannon's getting fired. Kyler Murray's not going to be there next year.
Zach Taylor's probably not getting fired, according to the Cincinnati beat reporters.
I still think there's a chance he stays because he still has his contract for next year, and Mike Brown's a cheap fuck who will not pay someone to not coach his team. So I do think Zach Taylor gets one more year, but I do think two things. They don't do anything next year. He's gone. I think Joe Burrow is going to make a power play to get out there as well. So he can then put the blame on ownership and on the team. So he leaves looking like a hero. With this game, I got nothing besides the fact I think this is another Cincinnati B-A game. I think it's going to be that thing now with Cincinnati where, they're going to win out strong. And then everyone's going to be like, next year, Bengals, watch for the Bengals. Look at them. I know you got a close-up look at them yesterday with Chase Brown and everything, unfortunately, but
fortunately, don't worry. Well, my rooting preferences have changed significantly in the last week, so do not worry. But
but this game though, like that's the things I have to say with this, and it just seemed like Joe Burrow was like it's like those ads. The number one cure for football depression is a good old belt to ass.
Yeah, I think Cincinnati is a good betting opportunity right now because not only is Burrow playing, but T. Higgins is back too. And I've always banked that there's a reason why Joe Burrow was adamant that T. Higgins get paid, because T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Burrow, when one of them is not on the field, their offense falls apart. So like now with Burrow, Higgins, and Chase all playing, like they're going to drop like 35 every week. And when they're playing these, like they play Arizona this week, and then I think they play Cleveland week 18, like you can't make the spread big enough. They're going to win by double digits, I think, both games. So I think they're a great betting opportunity. I bet a ton of money on Bengals -2 before Tua got benched. And then the line only went up to 4.5. And I was like, that's not enough. That's not enough. And I bet it again at 4.5. So yeah, Bengals, I think, I normally don't want to talk about the dead teams. Probably won't talk about some of the dead games we have left in this lineup. But I think the Bengals are an interesting dead team from a betting opportunity because I think they're going to score like 30, 35 points. And I think they're going to cover spreads. And I think people aren't going to be prepared for it because they're going to look at their record and not care. Bengals are ahead of the Dolphins in the draft order. And so we need the Bengals to win one more game for the Dolphins and the Bengals to flip draft spots. So come on, Cincinnati. Let's do it.
Yeah. And then with Arizona, like I said, too, like Jonathan Gannon's like the most, like when you look at a coach, you're like, he's getting fired. Like we already know.
Albert Breer said that for the GM, it's like 50-50. Maybe the GM will stay. But for the head coach, he said like Bidwell likes Gannon too. It's just gotten so bad. They're 3-12. Like
you went out to start the year.
You can't just let the team quit like this, where you just go on like this 9-game lose, however long the losing streak is at this point. Like it needs to be better than this. So yeah, sadly for them, I think Gannon's going to get fired, and I think we'll get a new head coach, we'll get a new quarterback, and then we'll go from there.
They do have a couple internal candidates you can look at, but it's just how bad the teams look. Like, I don't think you can really put any eggs into the Drew Pensing basket, and the Mike Rallis as well as the coordinator. It's like Arizona's that one team I'm always like, hey, is this year? They put some stuff together, but then it's like, this year Walter Nolan now probably done for the rest of the year. I know he was carted off in the game yesterday, and the thing is too, you have Trey McBride, who I believe is leading the NFL in receptions. So I think he's 105 or something like that. So it's one of those things where you're just like, man, like I want you to be good, but you don't have the ability to be good. Tell me why the Cleveland Browns. Also, I have a take for this game. This is the game Myles Garrett is going to break the sack record at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I do like, though, like you're saying, I do like them on the number, though. I do like the +6.5 for Cleveland because also, I believe Tomlin struggled in Cleveland more than anything.
Yeah, so here's why I like Cleveland a lot. So one, their defense plays way better at home. It always has. I've known that ever since they beat up on my Dolphins when we traveled over there. I knew that when they played the freaking Ravens really close, like not that long ago. I think
Shedeur did yesterday.
Shedeur played. They played really tough yesterday. It's a different defense playing in Cleveland. Like they play with a lot more. They get the home crowd behind them. Myles Garrett's trying to break the sack record. That's kind of all this team has left is him breaking the sack record. They want to do it. He wants to do it in Cleveland. He wants to do it in front of the home fans. He's one away. And Rodgers is a statuesque quarterback. Because the Rodgers-Favre parallels keep continuing over and over again. How poetic would it be if Rodgers gets the last sack to give Garrett the record, just like Brett Favre did for Michael Strahan way back in the day? Yeah. So Steelers are not going to have DK Metcalf for this game. That's a big deal. If you don't watch the Steelers, people out there who don't watch the Steelers, we played them on Monday Night Football last week, and I saw a lot of their game against the Lions. The thing you have to know about this team is they don't use the wide receiver position. It's DK Metcalf, and then the guys that get targeted on that team are Jaylen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell, Darnell Washington, Jonnu Smith, and then sometimes Pat Freiermuth. They do not use receivers. I swear to you. DK Metcalf is the only wide receiver that gets the ball. So if he does not play, that's a really big deal. Now you're trying to beat the Cleveland defense without anybody getting attention on your wide receiver. So now you can probably put your corners on some of those tight ends. And generally in the NFL, corners cover tight ends pretty well because tight ends are not fast enough to separate. So I think that it's a real big deal for the Steelers, bigger than people might think, that DK Metcalf doesn't play because of the fact that they're so reliant on him at the receiver position. Furthermore, Rodgers last year, he played really well against the Dolphins and against the Jaguars in back-to-back weeks after they were eliminated. No one watched it. No one. In fact, I think I remember I came on the show when we did the AFC preview, and I remember I was talking about how the reason I think the Rodgers thing is going to go better than most people realize is because he was quietly cooking with Devontae Adams late in the Jets season last year. They came to Miami and they dropped 30 on the Dolphins. And a lot of people didn't care. A lot of people weren't paying attention. But if you watch those games late in the year, you saw some signs of Rodgers coming back to life. What's the problem? He did well against Miami. He did well against the Jaguars. Both those games were in Florida. Then the very next week, he went back home to New York and played the Rams. And he was terrible. And one of the betting analysts I really like, Chris Raybon from the Action Network, he said before that game that for an older guy, he thinks the climate does matter a lot. That being in sunny, warm weather South Florida versus being in cold New York, when you get hit, when you hit the ground is stiffer, it's firmer, it hurts more, it takes more damage out of you. It's Cleveland in December. It's going to be freezing cold. So for all those reasons, with no DK Metcalf, with Rodgers maybe having a downtick in his production, remember last week was against Detroit. That was Detroit in a dome. The week before, yes, it was cold in Pittsburgh on Monday Night Football. I know that. And I know he played in Lambeau. I know that. Those are home games. Those are not road environments, road atmospheres where it's also cold as hell, where you're also kind of beat up. And I think that, plus Myles Garrett going after the sack record, plus no DK Metcalf, I think the Steelers, they've been hot the last 3 weeks. They beat the Ravens. They beat the Dolphins. They beat the Lions. It's very possible none of those three teams make the playoffs. So let's not overstate the wins either. But nonetheless, they've looked really hot the last 3 weeks. I think they're kind of due. I think, as this always happens with Pittsburgh, we talk about it all the time, once they get that 9th win, once they clinch that non-losing season, I think they usually tend to regress at this moment. So I think this is a Pittsburgh regression spot. I think Cleveland wins outright. And I think if The Ravens, if the Packers have to play Clayton Tune, that's who their third string quarterback is after Malik Willis. If the Packers have to play Clayton Tune, I think it's very possible Baltimore beats them, Pittsburgh loses, and we actually do get Baltimore-Pittsburgh Week 18 for the division. Now, a lot has to happen there. Clayton Tune has to play. If it's Jordan Love, if it's Malik Willis, that's different. And obviously, I'm predicting the Steelers upset, but I'm still predicting Shedeur Sanders to beat like a 9-win NFL team. I understand all of this is still a stretch, but I think Cleveland is my top play this week. Give me Cleveland on the spread. Let's do it.
Yeah, my thing with also, I do think if Baltimore-Pittsburgh is one of the if that game is for the division, that will be not Sunday Night Football, but that will definitely be the Saturday night game. Yeah, because like I said, that Sunday night you're doing a game where it's for the 1 seed. You're doing a game that's for all the marbles like they did last year. Except for the case, I remember that funny Chargers-Raiders game from a few years ago where neither team wanted to win. But with this game here, like, look, Cleveland just needs to win because if the Browns can win this game, you send the fans home happy for the offseason. This has always been a lost year for Cleveland. It's always been a year where it's just like, it's looking ahead to next year. It's, hey, where do we get better from next year? Their defense, like, they have a good defense. Well, they still need some parts, but Harold Fannin Jr., gem of a find. Quinshon Judkins looks awesome. They really need to beef up their offensive line, in my opinion. Like Jack Conklin can't stay healthy. I don't like using the term made of glass, but he literally, like, I think it's like the man games played is just, it's not fun to look at. But yeah, and then with Pittsburgh, it's kind of like take it, hey, probably win the division, get waxed in the wild card round by Buffalo, and then just move on with your merry way. That's pretty much all I got here. I love Cleveland. I love Cleveland to cover the spread, but also to get them to win. Send the fans home happy. Send the dog pound home happy into the 2025 off season.
I agree.
I know they're playing right now, and they get to see Red Panda at halftime in Indianapolis. But with the Jacksonville Jaguars, do we see any, like, what do you think they're going to be in January? Like, is this a team where people are like, hey, they can get to the Super Bowl? Or do you think they could make a deep run and that, everyone's looking at them now where it's like, hey, next year, kind of like what they did with Doug Marrone back in 2022?
Yeah, like they definitely have my attention. Like, it's hard to ignore. They've scored like more than 24 points a game every week, like the last 8 weeks or something like that.
They're also younger than us, by the way.
And they don't they like lead the NFL in turnovers as well? Or they're up there, like certainly up there. And yeah, like their OC is now all of a sudden becoming a name in the head coach. I've seen like
because 29.
Yeah, I know, and he breaks Sean McVay's record for youngest head coach ever hired. Because I'm seeing in all these places, there's not obvious like Ben Johnson candidates available in this head coaching pool. There's a lot of defensive coordinators and second-time head coaches, but there's not a lot of hotshot Ben Johnson or hotshot Liam Cohen candidates out there. So yeah, this guy Benedict or whatever his name is, like he's like really high on the list. Basically, Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen's offensive coordinators are like the next names people are picking because there's no like organic one. I think it's a flawed concept because those guys, Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen, last year called the plays for Detroit and Tampa Bay.
Yep.
They still call plays now. So I think picking the OCs is kind of pushing it a little bit, but hey, if they want to find an offensive mind, go right ahead. So yeah, it's crazy how much success they've had. I look at the point streak. I look at how they played in Denver yesterday, which I think is a really hard place to play against the team with the best record in the NFL. I'm impressed. I think there's something here. I really do. And they're so lucky that they still have one more game against the Titans left on the schedule. So they're going to be a 12 or 13 win team. And I think, yeah, I'm starting to think, yeah, maybe this is kind of like 2017 or like 2022, where they come out of nowhere and they at least win one playoff game, even if not two. I think they're real. I think like of all the, like, I think most people to me, picking the Bills to win the AFC is a very lazy take, in my opinion. A lot of people are going to do it because everyone's going to say, oh, they have Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow are not in the playoffs. Let's just pick the best quarterback left and pick Josh Allen. I think that's lazy. I think that team is really flawed.
I have a lot of takes on them.
My Dolphins kicked their ass like not that long ago. We kicked their ass, destroyed them. The Falcons destroyed them. I don't buy it at all. I think
they lost to Davis Mills.
I think their defense is really flawed, and I think they have no receivers that scare you. And I think those two things are both fatal flaws. And as good as Josh Allen is, as good as James Cook has been, as good as McDermott is at calling defense, I think in playoff atmospheres against playoff teams, those two flaws will get exposed. So I would not pick the Bills. And so I think other people are now like not sure what to do. And I told you I would pick Denver, but just because they have home field. But if I had to pick a team that's not Denver, I'd probably pick Jacksonville. And I didn't think I'd say I would not have said that on your show like 3 weeks ago. Like I'm just paying attention to what's happened the last few weeks, and you're like, huh, there's something brewing here. Remember, they destroyed the Chargers too. They already beat the Texans early in the season. They destroyed the Chargers 35-6 in Jacksonville.
They beat a healthy Kansas City Chiefs as well.
They beat a healthy Chiefs team. This team seems legitimate. They haven't played New England. They haven't played Pittsburgh. So them versus the rest of the AFC field, they just beat the 1 seed. It makes you wonder.
They also believe they beat San Francisco too.
They did.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think they got boat raced by the Rams, but they did beat San Francisco earlier this year as well. I believe in them. I just want to see Trevor in a pressure pack situation. I want to see Trevor in that high leverage situation.
Yeah, that's fair.
We got what's been dubbed online by some as the Coke versus Meth Bowl as the Miami Dolphins play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. More than Miami, because I will ask you about this, just because obviously the team looked different than Chris Greer getting fired in the last 2 weeks, have gone off the rails a bit. If the Bucs do miss the playoffs, is Todd Bowles out as head coach?
Yeah, I think so.
The main reason I have for that is the fact that he wasn't a conventional hire. Remember, Tom comes back, Bruce Arians retires, they bring back their dogs are also barked on the show many times before and won't be the last. But no, I thought with you guys, I'm just like, was yesterday the nail in the coffin, because I still think there's a chance McDaniel stays in Miami. I don't know for certain, but the more I think the writing's on the wall, unless the GM's willing to work with him. And I do think at the end of the day too, Stephen Ross is going to be the one making the decision on him to stay or not. Because I think I kept hearing he wants to be more involved in the football ops, just to an extent where he's like basically he's the one who makes the final decisions on things. But with the Dolphins, they're just at a crossroads right now where it's, yes, you do need another quarterback in the building. We'll see what happens with the Tua situation, because obviously they're really cap strung the next couple of years. I believe $54 million. I don't even want to think about what the dead money situation would be with them, but that's all I got. And then with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's really just, I think you bring in I think you just got to bring in an offensive guy. I don't think you can go defense again with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers if Todd Bowles is the one getting out. But I will say this with Tampa, I do think even if they win the division and they get out in the wild card round, I do think Todd Bowles is out as coach there. I think it's just, they would have to go on a crazy run, I think, for him to keep his job at this point.
The division is too bad to tolerate them not winning it. Like it'd just be a tough look. They're 2-3 in the division with losses.
Saints coming to your house and getting embarrassed by the Saints at home.
And then the very next week you lose to the Falcons in your own building as well. Like it's tough. It's tough. Like they had high expectations. I know they lost
to him in July.
Yeah, and I know they lost Liam Cohen, but still there were high expectations there. Like their roster on paper has a lot of talent. So yeah, I think that's usually what gets you fired is stuff like that, when you're underperforming to that extreme of a level. And so I think he could get fired if they lose. McDaniel should be fired. Will he? We'll find out. Do not believe, everyone, the reports that McDaniel and his agent and the quarterback collective that the Shanahan guys are all a part of, that they're always leaking to Rap Sheet and Pelissero and everyone in that NFL Network circle. And they always tell you, McDaniel's fine, McDaniel's fine, McDaniel's fine. And then Adam Schefter came on the Pat McAfee show today and said, McDaniel is not safe. We don't know yet. They have not made a decision in either direction, which means he's getting that from ownership, from sources close to Stephen Ross, who is the guy making the decision. So please, by all means, it's been very, very, very agitating for us Dolphin fans to see all these McDaniel, clearly fed by McDaniel, reports in the media. And Stephen Ross really is the one who will make the decision, not Mike McDaniel. And we'll find out at the end of the year. It is widely speculated that after the Monday night game, McDaniel realized, okay, we officially didn't clinch a playoff spot. I might get fired. The only chance I have to save my job is if I can show I can run a good offense with Quinn Ewers, to show them that, hey, have me be the guy that's leading the quarterback eval for next year when the team moves on from Tua. And I think the opening debut of that was not great. I would say Quinn Ewers was okay at best, bad at worst. Historically, the Dolphins' offense is horrible when Tua doesn't play. been banging this drum for like 3 years. When Tua doesn't play, the Dolphins' offense is horrible, which is why when Tua doesn't play, they can't make the line big enough to bet the other team because they're very, 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 very bad with backup quarterbacks usually. So on that perspective, McDaniel, I like him personally. I like him as a guy. Like when you watch his interviews, like he's a very likable guy. Like I rooted for him a lot. I defended him a lot for years. But eventually the chicken comes home to roost on the pure simple fact that he just doesn't seem like he has the command of a room. He doesn't seem like he has the respect of the locker room. It seems like he lets players run all over him. He let players run the building. People try to say it's a player-led team. It's a player-led team. Players have to hold everyone else accountable. But the head coach still has to be the head coach. Like I'm all for having a player-led locker room because he says, like McDaniel always says, that's what they do in San Francisco. They have a player-led locker room. Yes, but Shanahan is still in charge. Shanahan is still the head coach. I think McDaniel took that advice too literally, where he was like, I want a player-led locker room, but that means I don't have to do my job. Yeah. That means I don't actually have to like do anything and like leave it all to the players to get everything done. And
let
so
the inmates run the asylum.
Exactly. And that's what it turned into. And so unfortunately for McDaniel, it got out of control. And then they spent all last year just blaming everything on Jalen Ramsey, blaming everything on Tyreek, blaming everything on the defensive backs from last year. They're not.
He's 100% gone, by the way. People. He's gone.
Lock. Big lock. So McDaniel blamed it all on those guys. This offseason, he's probably going to blame everything on Tua. And it's a shocking lack of accountability.
There's going to be some nasty reports to come out once Tua's off the Dolphins. Or once McDaniel's gone from the building. There's either way. I think there's going to be some reports that come out. He's going to talk to whether it's what's the guy's name? Marcel with ESPN.
Marcel Louis-Jacques, yeah.
Marcel Louis-Jacques, who I still remember that. Greg Tomset's in a fantasy league with him. There's the other guy, I think Dave something, or it's for I think West.
There's Dave Furonis, there's David Hyde, all of them, yes. And he should be fired, and most Dolphin fans want him fired because most Dolphin fans realize that they're a dumb team, they're a poorly disciplined team. There's no accountability anywhere. Like he took like I said, he took the let's have a player led locker room, and he just took it too far to where no one respects him, and the team, he holds the team back. I think he's overrated as a play caller too. Like you all think he's this like amazing play caller. He gets away from the run too quickly. His passing concepts don't really merge routes together. It's like it's all designed to get the first read open, and when the first read's not open, the second or third read don't naturally flow from there. They're kind of like non sequiturs in the rest of the play. I get he may be good as an offensive coordinator somewhere, but he just can't lead a room, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like it is what it is. But the Dolphins shouldn't bring him back, and it would be so dumb because they're probably going to rebuild next year anyways. So if you bring him back, for what purpose? To lead like a 4-13 or 5-12 Dolphin season, and then you're just going to fire him anyways after next year? Like why bother? Like why bother? And they just fired the GM. They just fired the quarterback. Why does the head coach get to stay? What the fuck has the head coach done to justify anything on him staying when we've seen Tua without McDaniel and the offense was okay? McDaniel without Tua and it's terrible. And I think that's going to show itself these last two games. I think the team has quit. I think he's kind of checked out too. And I think he's going to fight like hell to keep his job, and I don't think he should. The Tua thing is sad, man. This is a different player. This is not the guy that we were defending in 2022 and 2023. Most people would blame the concussions. I wouldn't. I would blame the hip injury he suffered at the end of last year, which no one talked about, where he got hurt against the Texans and he just missed the last two games of the season with a hip injury on the hip on the same side as his college injury. He looks stiff. He looks stiff out there. He looks like the most unathletic player in the NFL right now. And he was not always like that. There was a time where he was scrambling for first downs. There was a time where he was making plays outside the pocket. And these days he looks like Phillip Rivers out there. Like it's really unfortunate. The arm strength is worse. The mobility is worse. Obviously, yes, like because of this level of quarterback production at the salary we're paying him, there's some people that wonder did he stop caring about football once he got paid? It seems like that happened with Deshaun Watson. It seems like that happened with Carson Wentz. It wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. Whatever the reason, the quarterback they have now is obviously not worth $50 million, and so they probably will cut him. It would probably be a $60 million dead cap hit next year, and then a $30 million dead cap hit the year after. It would be higher than Russell Wilson's record of $82 million in dead cap hit from the Broncos, but the difference is the cap has risen by more in the last few years than the difference in that number. So it would be the dead cap hit record by total number, but not the record as a percentage of the salary cap. What Denver did is still worse, which should give Dolphin fans some hope. But the problem is, because I've been getting
Walmart money.
Yes, and I've been getting in fights with Dolphin fans like the last month about this. Like, they're so bloodthirsty on Tua that they're just like, I'll take anything else. I just don't even want to watch him. I don't care if the next quarterback is worse or better. I just want to take him, and I just don't want him anymore. My argument was always, well, if we're just going to have Gardner Minshew or Jacoby Brissett or some of these like crappy like veteran backups next year, you could just keep Tua for 2026, and then you don't have to take on the dead cap hit in 2027. Like, why throw $30 million of dead cap hit if the team's going to be bad anyways? Now, if the plan is we want to tank, we want to start like some young quarterback and develop a young quarterback, that's totally fine. I totally get that. Starting a bad veteran quarterback just for bloodlust, and then we take on a dead cap hit in 2027 that we don't have to take, I think is not good process, because I think it holds back the 2027 team from getting a higher level when they're hung with a $30 million dead cap hit. Like when the Broncos did that, they drafted a quarterback in the first round, 12th overall. Most people don't like this quarterback class. Most people don't like this quarterback class at all. So what the hell are the Dolphins going to do? Like, just forcibly draft Dante Moore and then start him for an entire year? I guess you can. I still have some questions on Dante, but I guess it's worth trying. Or what? You draft a quarterback in the second round, like Josh Rosen style, and you just start him for an entire season, but you intentionally put him in a bad situation. You put him on a bad rebuilding team that's probably going to cut Austin Jackson in the offseason, that is going to cut Tyreek Hill in the offseason, that is going to cut Bradley Chubb in the offseason. And where do you leave that quarterback? Like, are you really fairly this is why I hated when the Dolphins traded for Josh Rosen in 2019. The argument of just take a chance on quarterback, see what happens. You don't take a chance, though, when you have a terrible team and you set up the quarterback to fail. That's when you don't take a chance. So it also depends on who's the next head coach going to be. Is it going to be an offensive guy? Is it going to be a defensive guy? Like, so there's a lot there that's going on. I think probably what's going to happen is they'll probably they'll probably draft a quarterback in the first, second, or third round. And I would hope that they would just do that, and either the guy is good and the guy stays, or the guy is so bad that we tank and we get a better pick for the next year. I want that. What I don't want to do is cut Tua, and then we're starting Jacoby Brissett for 17 games next year. And then we have a $30 million dead cap hit in 2027 that we didn't have to take. It's like, what the fuck are we doing? I've seen Tua and Jacoby Brissett on the same team and know that Tua was better back then in 2021. Obviously, Tua physically is in a different state now than he was back then, but still, my point stands. I want McDaniel gone. I want a better quarterback plan than a lot of the quarterback plans that I've heard. And yeah, it's just going to factor into all of that decision making. So for now, I would say, yeah, McDaniel, like I said, I liked him. I like his interviews, but I think he's had enough chances. I think it's just time. I think he doesn't get another 2 years here. I'm sorry. And I think if you're bringing him back, that's the only way it makes sense to bring him back. Because bringing him back for the 2026 rebuild year just to fire him eventually, I think is a waste of everybody's time. So like, I think you only bring him back if you're going to bring him back here for several years. And I think he lost that chance. I think every time the team fell apart without Tua, that told you that McDaniel wasn't worth keeping around. And Tua's not going to be here anymore. So why keep McDaniel around?
Yeah, it's. I use the word identity crisis a lot, but the Miami Dolphins really are facing that right now, where Stephen Ross has got to make the right decisions to set his team up for that potential success for the next 5 years. I want to pivot for a second because there was an article released about our wonderful friend and newly suspended. I'm going to use the name that apparently caused the physical altercation. DeKalen Zacharias DK Metcalf.
Yep.
The 2-game suspension for what the NFL terms conduct detrimental, to the league now avoids at least $45 million in future guarantees for the Pittsburgh Steelers receiver. Metcalf would still be able to earn the money over the next 2 years. His 4-year, $132 million contract from March, reviewed by CBS Sports, notes that if he fails to practice or play with the club for any reason, which includes player suspension by the NFL or club for conduct detrimental, his guarantees would be null and void.
That's fair.
So it avoids $45 million in guarantees. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's just crazy there. And then with this game here, I'm just going to come out and say it. If this isn't a get right spot for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that Week 18 game is just dead man walking when the Panthers come to town. But for Week 18, when the Dolphins come up to Foxborough, it's going to be very interesting to see the mood just overall in that one. I'll be honest with you. For the longest time, I had that like until you guys benched Tua, visions of like 2019 in the back of my head where like we're going for the 1 seed and like, you guys screw Costa.
Yeah, that was a motivated, engaged team. Mike McDaniel has never coached the Dolphins ever when they were eliminated from the playoffs, ever. 2022, they made the playoffs. 2023, they made the playoffs. 2024, they were alive going into week 18 if the Chiefs had lost to Denver and they had beaten the Jets. So literally that Bengals game was the first time you ever saw McDaniel coach the Dolphins where they had nothing to play for. And you saw the result. And that was at home. That was at home against the worst defense in the NFL that gives up 31 points per game. I think there's a lot of Dolphin fans that think, okay, Ewers was up and down, but maybe he'll improve with more experience over the next 2 games. I think it'll get worse. I think it'll get worse because that was the easiest defense they'll play by a mile. And playing Todd Bowles against the rookie quarterback, I think he's going to have a bunch of crazy blitz schemes. He's going to get him cooked up. He's going to get him rattled, and Ewers might make a mistake. Ewers right now, an incredibly small sample size. It's not fair. I'm aware. But if you factor in his 4th quarter against the Browns and that game against the Bengals, he actually right now on PFF has a higher turnover-worthy play rate than Tua did as a percentage of his dropbacks. Like that's how much he's been turning it over so far. So I think against the Todd Bowles defense, I know the defense isn't as good talent-wise, but just the scheme, the blitzes, the pressure, I'm just convinced he will throw some sort of coverage look that confuses Quinn Ewers, and all of a sudden he has a free rusher in his face, and he panics and he makes a mistake. And yeah, Week 18 at Foxborough in the snow with the Patriots almost certainly playing their starters because they might have a chance to surpass Denver for the 1 seed. You guys are going to win by 30. Like there's literally no chance this team is going to care. There's no chance they're going to come out motivated. They are showing up to get slaughtered.
Thank you for Andy Borregales, by the way. I really like him this year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Remember when he missed those 2 extra points against the Dolphins in week 2?
Yep.
Again, it's such a long season. But yeah, we love Andy.
Well, guess where we go to? We go to MetLife Stadium where the Brady Cook-led New York Jets are taking on the Drake May New England Patriots. I got to get something off my chest. I hate the fact that Buffalo nearly beats Cleveland and everyone's like, oh, it's just another week. Yet we lose 1 game to Buffalo and we're called frauds. It fucking bothers me. I hate the whole thing where now, it's basically fuel to the fire for Bills fans. There's been talks, the whole carving up the Ravens defenses for everyone because even though we just put up 28, they put up 41 on them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to say with the Patriots this year, and I know there's the expectations are higher outside. For me internally, ever since the win streak, it's been house money. This team won 8 games the last 2 seasons. 8. They lose wild card weekend. We know they're going to hear the talk of, oh, they're frauds. Oh, look what happens when they play a real team. For most Patriots fans, this year is literally house money. It's going to suck in the moment, believe me, if they do lose a playoff game, whether it be wild card, divisional, AFC. I don't see them getting to the Super Bowl as of yet, also because I just don't want to put that. I don't want to put that out there because if I do that, I'm only setting myself up for disappointment and failure.
Yeah.
Cautious optimism is how I'm viewing this run. It's been fantastic to watch. The fact that I know a lot of people hate the fact that we have a franchise quarterback and Drake May is just awesome. The fact that, our offensive line's gone better. Defensively, good Lord, do I miss Milton Williams. It was like Derrick Henry was just carving us up yesterday. But with this Patriots team, it's been fun to watch again. And I just don't like the talk of, how everyone's like, oh, the schedule, oh, this. The greatest show on turf had an easy schedule and no one said jack about it. But for some reason,
I saw the stat that this is the easiest schedule that any NFL team has played since, a team that won the Super Bowl. Oh, yeah. Okay.
One of the teams was one of the greatest teams of all time, who guess what was supposed to be a dynasty, but lost to a little team and a quarterback from San Mateo, California in the Super Bowl. But no, this Patriots team, it's just the fact that they have an identity, the fact that there's leadership, the fact that, the First Lady of New England's baking wonderful Christmas cookies on her TikTok every day. Shout out Ann Michael. There's just a sense of bonding. There's a sense of camaraderie. There's a sense of just everything else. I'm not going to go into too much detail in this game just because I do think the Patriots lay belt the ass in this one just because the Jets defense is just not good. It ain't it.
The Jet, like starting Brady Cook over Tyrod Taylor intentionally tells you, they're tanking. Like they're not trying to win this game.
Is Aaron Glenn one and done though?
It's possible. I think it's possible. Yeah. Like I at first I didn't believe it, but Mike Florio made that comment on his show that he might be. And I listened to Greg Rosenthal and Ollie Connolly. If you guys don't listen to him, Ollie Connolly is one of the best football minds out there.
And I listen to Mike Florio every day, by the way.
Yeah, and Ollie Connolly and Rosenthal have that podcast on Saturdays, and they talked about coaching carousel this past weekend. And Greg said, because Greg used to work for Mike Florio, and Greg said, like, Mike Florio wouldn't just say that. Like he's not just saying that like offhandedly, like meaning nothing. Like especially because Florio has a lot of connections to both the New York teams. Like Greg's like, huh, Mike Florio saying that really makes me think this might actually happen. And they play Buffalo next week at Buffalo. I mean, they're gonna lose by 30.
If they potentially last ever home game in that stadium.
And I think it's one of the fascinating things because it's such a small stat. But if you hire a defensive back as your head coach and your team goes 17 games without an interception, which their only chances left are Drake May and Josh Allen. Those are their only two chances left, unless you guys are just destroying them by 40 and then some backup comes in the game.
Okay, Josh Dobbs, by the way.
Josh Dobbs, and then in Buffalo would be Mitch Trubisky. So unless that happens, this is their last chance to get an interception on the season. That's a bad look for a defensive-minded head coach. Bad look for a defensive-minded head coach firing your defensive coordinator because you're admitting that the defense is not good enough and you're a defensive mind.
Yep.
And I think it's possible. I think it's possible. And I don't think like it's really unfair to Aaron Glenn, that the trades they made mid-season might make it easier to fire him. But I saw a Jets podcast mention this. Oh, would no one want to take this job because we're one and done? First of all, everyone will take any job. Like It's the NFL. There's only so few jobs available. Like the Browns somehow get good head coaching candidates every single time. Like the Cleveland Browns never struggle in finding a new head coach. Kevin Stefanski was a sought-after head coach. Hugh Jackson, when he got there after his 2015 season with the Bengals, was viewed as the top head coach in the market. Like the Bears got Ben Johnson. Like every team can always get a head coach because there's so few jobs available. But even if you don't buy that, and even if you think no one would want to go to New York specifically because they're coach killers or whatever, they have 3 first-round picks. Like they have things that can appeal to a new head coaching candidate. They have a fuck ton of cap space and a bunch of first-round picks over the next 2 years. And that, unfortunately, not only did it make Aaron Glenn's defense worse, it also made it easier to fire him because it's easier to attract another candidate to replace him. So I think it's possible. I think it's a 50-50. Like most people seem to expect Pete Carroll to get fired. I think Glenn is the other one and done that some people are talking about, like Florio, like us, but I don't know if people have really digested the fact that we might have 2 one and dones this year.
The one thing I've learned with Mike Florio over the years by listening to him is that he always says the stuff that, like when networks, like he won't, like, ESPN kind of like tiptoes around certain subjects. Yeah. He's a ZFG kind of person. My Mike will literally just speak his mind and he'll probably get a call from his boss. Like his boss will call him from NBC and just be like, hey, we got a call from 345 Park Avenue. They didn't like the thing you just said there. Mm-hmm. Him and Chris Sims really do work well together. I know Chris Sims is always viewed as just this, he was a good college quarterback who kind of flamed down the NFL, but like Chris Sims brings a lot of good insight there. It's just some of the draft stuff, but that's a topic for another day. But with the Jets, though, like I view it as the GM safe. I do think Darren Muji's job is safe. But with Aaron Glenn, though, if he were to be fired, how fast do you think he's back in Detroit? Do you think they bring him back, or do you think kind of like what they did with Saleh here?
Yeah, like it's tough because they like Calvin Shepard. And
that's the thing, bro.
And they had like tough injuries this year that like weren't necessarily his fault. So I think it's tricky. I think the more likely outcome is that whatever DC takes like a head coaching job or goes to college or something, maybe Aaron Glenn will take that guy's job. Like maybe Aaron Glenn will replace like Jesse Minter in the Chargers, something like that.
I think there's a chance that he replaces the other tenant, the main tenant of that stadium's DC. Chris Shula.
Oh, yeah. That's fair. Because at first I thought you were talking about the Giants' DC because of the Jets and Giants Stadium. But yes,
no. I do think Chris Shula is going to get looks. Who knows? I don't know if you'd want him in Miami just because there's the connection there because of his grandfather. But no, there's nothing to say really about this game. And then with the Patriots, it's just now because here's the thing too with the Patriots, they still have, I believe, a lot of cap room this coming off season. They have a lot more internal decisions. Like Christian Gonzalez is going to get paid. They're going to probably give Demario Douglas a nice cheap contract. The one wild card, and you didn't get hurt last night, and there was that egregious no DPI call. But look, if we do an officiating podcast, we're going to end at midnight. Kayshon Boutte's another one that I think is going to be in a bit of a contract stalemate. He is entering his 4th year. He's going to want to get paid. He's had a really good year, but he's the one player we've all been saying in Patriot Nation where we're like, we wouldn't be surprised to see him potentially walk or potentially, get in a bit of that contract stalemate and sign like closer as we get closer to camp. But for New England, it's really just, I think you're in that window where it's, hey, capitalize while the quarterback's getting paid a nice salary, before he skyrockets, because Drake is going to get over $60 million when that time comes.
Mhm.
And it's also the fact he's just so likable, and that there's no the Patriots, like, no, people want to see the Patriots fail just because it's, oh yeah, like 5 years of being bad, now you're good again. I'm just like, yeah, they made the right decisions. I always give major props and praise to the Crafts for firing Gerard Mayo, realizing that it didn't work out. And look, I don't like living in the past. Like, everyone's like, oh, what if they hired Mike Vrabel last year? And I'm like, no, last year's team was always set up for failure. Like, there was no hope of last year. This year was a surprise. Like, if the Patriots right now were in that like position that, let's say, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in right now, or like the Ravens, most Patriots fans would have been okay with it. I was always 7-10. I thought best case scenario was going to be 10-7 or 11-6. This team's 12-3 right now and has a potential chance to finish 14-3. Something I never thought. I don't remember the last time I saw 14 wins. I think it may have been 2016. I think it was the 2016, the Brady year. As for them though, we'll see how far they take this. We'll see if they end up in Santa Clara. I don't know if they will or not, but I'm just having fun with it. And I think Sunday's just another game to kind of help mold everything. And then basically the most important part for the Patriots is getting healthy for January, because we have a lot of injuries. A lot of guys got banged up yesterday, but guys like Milton Williams, Will Campbell are going to be back for the playoffs. So that's going to be fun to see. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got on this game.
Good for you. Good for you. Good for all the Patriots fans everywhere.
I know we suffered for a long time. Give me a break.
Yeah. That really tragic 4-year drought, which had like a playoff run in there.
Yeah, I know we had a playoff run which that's the one thing that annoys me with Bills fans, is that they bring that up like we suffer and think about it all the time, when they're literally like, oh, look at us. And we're like, great. Yeah, we don't flex wildcard games. We worry about winning late January and February. Tennessee, New Orleans, I don't have a lot to say, but Cam Ward looks like the guy.
Playing better, yeah, the last few weeks.
But I have a hot take. I think if you were to pick a team next year to go from worst to first, I think you put the Saints at the top of the leaderboard. I know it's weird.
No, it's not weird at all. Like we played them a few weeks ago, and I think most people who are not watching them probably don't realize that their defense has gotten a lot better. They're genuinely like a top 10 defense in the NFL right now. They are a pain in the ass to play. Like, no one wants to play the Saints defense right now.
Cam Jordan's one of the most underrated players over the last like 15 years at his position.
Yes. And they've like Brandon
Mario Davis, by the way.
And Brandon Staley's done a really good job as their DC. And so their defense is playing a lot better. Tyler Shuck is 4-3 as a starter right now. He is quietly like putting together some games. And you don't know how much it means. And for his sake, it might mean that he just gets the job next year. Maybe not a future contract, but at least for next year, he gets to continue the evaluation, especially
how the quarterback classes, though. It's a win for the Saints, because now they can focus on other stuff.
Absolutely. And he especially, because of how much he's winning, like I said at the start of the show, they are ahead of the Bengals and the Dolphins in the draft order. I think the Bengals are going to win out, and I think the Dolphins are going to lose out. So if they just win one game or so, they're going to drop to like 8th in the draft order. So they're not even going to get like necessarily the best chance to get a quarterback, even if they want to. So yeah, they are very impressive. They are a lot better than people think. A lot better. Like, they beat the Bucks for a reason. They beat the Panthers twice for a reason. Like, they've been growing as the season's gone on. It's a credit to Kellen Moore. This is what you want to see in the rebuilding year. You want to see the team show progress towards the end of the season, and they're doing that on both sides of the ball. So yeah, the Saints are definitely a pretty solid value right now.
Yeah, like when I look at them, like, I'm not here to say like, oh, they're going to be this like hot commodity next year. But like, when I look at the New Orleans Saints, I'm like, they're building a competent football team to where, yeah, it would be great to have a top draft pick for them. But at the same time too, they're building a team to where next year we all can kind of look and go, hey, they might be a wild card dark horse. And I'm not saying Super Bowl dark horse, but like, that team where it's kind of like, because they kind of went through the same thing as the Patriots, like, hey, they in that transition, moving on from a Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame quarterback. The Dennis Allen stuff was like, we all knew it was going to crash. It did crash and burn. And then Kellen Moore is like you're getting a coach that guys want to play for, like Spencer Rattler shouldn't have been the quarterback there. But for the Tyler Shuck thing, in a year where drafting a quarterback's, there's like 2 guys and then it's a massive drop off to a bunch of projects. It's great to have, because now if Shuck's bad next year, you're going to have a great class coming in 2027 to where it's, hey, you get your pick of the litter for that year for quarterback. So you see what you got in Shuck next year. and then you go from there. You have Chris Olave, who I believe you're going to give a second contract to. And the other part to this too is they're doing it without Alvin Kamara right now.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's impressive. Yeah. There's more to come. More to come.
There's a lot more to come, and I'm excited to see what they are next year, because I don't think, because I always remember this, like the night before the season, my dad was like, "Oh, I think we can win 7 games," and I kind of scoffed at him for it, where I was like, "I think they're like a 4-win team," but like I think they're 5-10. Yeah, I think they're 5-10 right now. So they go out there and they can finish 7-10. I think, yeah, they could finish with 7 wins. We'll see. But like, I think next year they're that team that could take that leap to where it's kind of like Panther-esque, where they're like competing for the division like later in the year, and they may miss the playoffs again, but they're kind of like that. They're kind of on the Detroit Lion trajectory right now, where it started off bad, it's getting better as the season ends, and then we'll see how it transitions into next year. And then for Tennessee, it's just, you have Cam Ward. It's just, you got nothing else. You gotta, for the love of God, you gotta build it on the quarterback. You gotta get the right head coach in there and just figure out how to go from there. But as for this game, though, I do like the Saints just because I do think they are the better overall football team.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I would say
the Las Vegas Raiders and the New York Giants. My biggest question with Vegas for you is Max Crosby there next year, or do you think he's going to try to get his way? Do you think they're going to try to get out from underneath him?
They probably should get rid of him, but I don't think they will, because Brady wants to win now. That was apparently the reason they hired Pete Carroll, was they wanted to do like a foundational thing, like establish a culture, establish a new foundation of winning. And they thought Pete Carroll could do that in year one. It obviously
beat us week 1.
And yeah, imagine telling someone after that game, one of these teams is going to go 11-3 or 12-3, and the other team is going to be 2-10, 2-11. It's like, the sport is so weird. So
2-13 versus 12-3.
Yes. So I think they should probably, do a proper rebuild, do what the Jets did, like get a new coach, a new GM, new quarterback, trade all your veterans, start over, accumulate draft picks. But I think Brady wants to win. And I think Brady thinks that we win if Max Crosby is on our football team. So I think they're not going to do that. I think they're just going to hope that the next head coach does a better job than Pete Carroll did, and that they build around Max Crosby. It's wild how it's gotten so bad that Pete Carroll being fired is not even like that surprising to a lot of people. Yep. Like, everyone's just like, yeah. They're 2-11. He's in his 70s. They were probably going to fire him at some point anyways. Connor Orr at the start of the year, I was very interested in this because I didn't hear anyone else report it. At the start of the year, Connor Orr was adamant that Pete Carroll was given a 3-year head coaching contract, not a 4-year coaching contract like most coaches do. Yep. Experienced guys sometimes get 5. I think like David Tepper, to lure Matt Rule, gave him like a 6-year deal.
Oh, yeah, that was just not
something crazy. Yeah, but Carroll only got a 3-year contract. They always envisioned this as him like being a culture setter, a tone setter, do it for like 1 or 2 years, maybe make the playoff by year 3, and then you hand it off to the next guy. And it just didn't work out. Just didn't work out at all. So, I think Carroll will be gone. I think they should move on from Crosby and rebuild. I don't think they will. I think Tom Brady wants to win, and I think Tom Brady's going to keep him around, even if it's not the right thing to do. I do like the Raiders in this game, though.
Yeah, I think with Max Crosby, he's going to stay for 2026. But I think if next year goes the same, I think then they move on. I think basically you have one more bad year, and then you pull. Oh, Jesus Christ, George Kittle's having a great game. 7 receptions, 115 yards. But I do think with the Raiders, it's a matter of, if they are bad again next year, you're going to have to do it. It's just one of those moves. I know he's talked about loyalty and been wanting to be a Raider. I believe he's got the logo tattooed on his body, because I know he's got like his whole body's tattooed. I just think with them, though, it's, you got to learn, Max, like, hey, do you want to win or do you want to be loyalty? Because loyalty only gets you so far. And then for the rest of the team, do we think that John Spytek really is going to be a one and done GM, or do you think he's going to have the chance to try to rewrite the ship?
I think he'll get another chance. I think like Brady, he was in Tampa Bay with Brady. Brady likes him. I think he'll get another chance.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think he'll get the chance, and then if he doesn't do the right moves, then that's when you pull the rug out from underneath him. I think it's basically see how 2026 goes and then go from there.
Yeah.
And then for the Giants, it's just like, hey, you have some great pieces, but then your top wide receivers ACL went snap. Your best, you had a borderline psychopath at running back whose ankle snapped. I will say this: their defensive line is really good. Brian Burns quietly having a really good year. I believe he's at like 13 sacks or something like that. It's just the rest of the team, though. It's just like, what are we doing? And then obviously we talked about Jackson Dart earlier, like the Patriots game. Like I know everyone talks about the hit that Christian Ellis laid on him. I'm sorry, you had Jackson Dart done that 20 years ago, there's a chance he's probably very seriously hurt for the rest of the season. Like if he's doing that with like Ray Lewis and Troy Polamalu and like Brian Dawkins, like like when a human is named Weapon X, then you know that he's a psychopath. But yeah, I don't know where the Giants go. Like I just look at them next year and I'm like, I just don't see how you make a drastic turnaround and be a good team. I just don't know how I see it with them. I think unless Jackson Dart, Malik Neighbors, and Cam Scatterbo come out and just take the league by storm, I don't see a world where you do that, especially with the Eagles in your division, especially with how good the NFC is. I think for them, you just got to kind of, hope you catch lightning in a bottle and go on this like Commanders Patriots-esque run. But more likely than not, I don't think that happens unless, like I said, unless Dart changes the way he plays. That's what it's going to come down to.
Remember when they were up 19 points in the Broncos in the fourth quarter at Denver?
Yeah.
The season is so long. The season is so long. Yeah, I don't have anything else much to add. I agree with you on all that. And we'll see. We'll see who the new coach is. Getting Neighbors back will be interesting. Like I can already see like so many fantasy people in the offseason being like, hey man, the Giants did all that without Malik Neighbors. Now Malik Neighbors is playing, so we don't quite know what it's going to look like in 2026. So that's an interesting dynamic. But yeah,
I keep caution on him.
Yeah. I would as well. But yeah, like I think the Raiders win this game. I think the Giants are going to get the first overall pick, and the Giants are probably going to trade it to whoever wants Fernando Mendoza. So that's probably what's going to happen.
There was something in the air tonight.
My dumb team might do that. My dumb team might do that because he's from Miami. He went to my high school in Miami. He's a Miami boy through and through. Grew up a lifelong Dolphins fan. So I have a feeling my team will not resist that temptation. I wouldn't do it personally. I think Mendoza projects to me to kind of be like a Jared Goff-esque quarterback, maybe with a little bit more mobility. And I don't think you should, like, if you happen to get number one and you want to draft Jared Goff, that's fine. I wouldn't trade like 2 first-round picks and then get a quarterback like that. But that's just me. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We got all offseason to talk about the draft because there's only 2 games at 4:00, and this is the one that everyone's going to be watching, is the Bills take on the Eagles in Buffalo, one of the last ever home games to be played at Highmark Stadium, potentially. I'm not getting too far ahead of myself, but I am rooting for the Birds because if the Patriots beat the Jets and the Birds beat the Bills, Patriots get the AFC East. But with a game like this, I was talking about earlier with Buffalo, I hated the narrative how yesterday it was, a win's a win. They beat Cleveland by 3. Oh, a win's a win. This team will not do anything unless Josh Allen basically has to put on the cape and be Superman for them to go far and do anything.
And those teams usually don't get to the Super Bowl, like almost never.
Everyone's going to pick them, though, because, there's no Mahomes. Oh, there's no Jackson. There's no Joe Burrow you have to worry about. People that Josh Allen's dealt with in the playoffs before. And I know people are also going to say, too, if they do have to be that, like, road favorite, like that road team that goes on in the playoffs, if they play the Patriots in the playoffs, Twitter is going to be fucking toxic for that game. Like, it's just no matter who wins, because I will tell you what, I try not to be one of those people just because there are reasons for it. Like there's a lot I stand for now where I'm like, I try to portray a clean image, but I've seen so many of the Bills fans just clap back, even yesterday, how it's like, all the quarterbacks that the Patriots beat, where it's like, this, where I'm just like, hey, you play who you play. But this game right here is a chance for Josh Allen to show the world that, hey, I can get it done against anybody. Because if they lose this game, regardless of how the Patriots game goes, I'm just saying that because, any given Sunday, anything can happen, even though I do think we win. Just that 13.5 number does kind of scare me just because, like I said, 13.5 is a big number. And it's a divisional game, like we said. But still, suggested the Jets. If they lose this game and Philadelphia's defense looks really good against them, that's really going to draw the blueprint on how to beat them come playoff time.
I need Buffalo. This is going to be the first fucking time in my life that I'm rooting for the Bills. I need Buffalo to win because I need you guys to not have the AFC East locked up because I need you guys to beat the hell out of us week 18. I don't want to freaking play Josh Dobbs, and even with Josh Dobbs, I still think you guys would win. But I don't want to run. I don't want to run the risk. I want the sure thing. I want the Drake May playing, all the starters playing, teeth getting kicked in. I want the sure thing. I don't want to take my chance with Josh Dobbs. So I'm going to be rooting for the Bills in this game. for that reason alone, because I know you guys have no shot to lose to the Jets. So this is my only chance.
Yeah.
I think the Bills will win. I think they're still a flawed team. Don't get me wrong. Super flawed team. But
so are the Eagles.
that's the thing. And the Eagles, their bounce back the last 3 weeks has been beating up on the Raiders and the Commanders, where Marcus Mariota got hurt midway through the game.
75 yards of total offense.
Like, that's
the least amount of yards the Eagles have allowed in almost 75, in I believe since 1955.
Yes. Good old Kenny Pickett style offense too, which definitely helped. But yes, nonetheless, I'm going to be rooting for Buffalo here for that reason. I've always thought Buffalo is one of the better teams built to stop the Eagles' offense because, like, especially back in the day, all these teams that play a bunch of man coverage, they play single high safety because they want to stack the box to stop Saquon, and then Hurts just throws a go ball to A.J. Brown because it's one-on-one coverage on the outside. The Bills specialize in not allowing those plays. That random Hurts 50-yard bomb that he completes like once every game, I don't think that will be available in this Bills game because I think their defense specifically designed to take those plays away. So with that, with it being in Buffalo, with it being one of the last 2 games of Buffalo in their home stadium, I think the Bills are going to win this game. The Bills have no reason to rest their starters. They theoretically still have a shot at the AFC East. So I think the Bills are going to win this game. And as a result of that, I think the Bills will win. Philly will lose. But I've been wrong before on this stuff. I guess I'd be surprised, but I'm hoping they do. If Buffalo loses and you guys rest your starters against us, I'm going to be very annoyed. But that's all I have to add to this game. Buffalo and Philly, like, there's more we can say on them, but their stories, I think at the end of the day, their stories are not going to be told now. Their stories are going to be told on what happens in the playoffs. So,
oh, absolutely. Because if it's another playoffs, because I will say this, I know we all made the joke last year with Buffalo where, like, I posted the meme of like Bart Simpson shutting a window where it's like, oh, what's that? You can hear a window closing. They do not win this. If Buffalo does not win a Super Bowl or get to a Super Bowl this year, if not now, when? Honestly. Because you look at, like I know everyone's going to say this is their best chance to get there. This is like the chance for them to, and also we're getting a shootout right now as it's 34-26, by the way.
Hey, I was just about to watch the play.
Oh, my bad.
I told you I'd caught up, but yeah.
Sorry. It's the Canadian. I was being polite.
Go for it.
No, I don't think if Buffalo flames out in the playoffs, McDermott's fired, but I just think next year it's going to be next year's the year where it's like, because we all know too, Josh isn't going anywhere. I think he's going to be a Bill for life. Like, Josh is not going to, do that. I was talking earlier, Joe Burrow doing a power play, Lamar Jackson potentially leaving leaving Baltimore once, because I think his contract's done in 2028 to where the franchise tag would just be on a wait. It just would not make sense to do. But for the Bills, I think they can contain. I also too. So I'm waiting. Oh, so the over under is 43.5. I would lean the under in this game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I mean, the Eagles, we haven't seen it as much the last few weeks because of the quality of their opponents and mainly the quality of their quarterbacks and Josh Johnson and Kenny Pickett. But the Eagles, they usually go an entire half where they just like don't score or they score like 3 points. And it wouldn't surprise me if that happens here as well.
It happened on Saturday. Like, Jake Elliott's not been playing well for them. Jalen Hurts. Like, the Eagles are like, I don't look at I know everyone's going to say this game, oh, this could be a potential Super Bowl preview. I don't think this is. I think there's honestly a world where both teams don't make it there, because I think like I said too, for Philadelphia, I think there's a lot of soul searching to do there. I think not soul searching. I think there's a lot to do there in the sense of like, hey, how do we keep getting better as other teams around us are getting much better than we are? And then with Buffalo, it's just, I think if Buffalo wins this game, and say if Buffalo kind of wins this comfortably, like say if they win this by 10 points, say if this game's 24-14, let's just throw out a random number. And then everyone go, oh, they beat the Eagles. This is the game. Buffalo catalyst to the Super Bowl. They finish with the Jets. They can still get the division with the off chance the Patriots do lose one of these next 2 games. But I think it's more or less kind of like showing the flaws of the Eagles more than highlighting the flaws of the Bills, if that makes any sense.
Yep, I agree.
Sunday night, we have a game that at the beginning of the year looked kind of iffy with Chicago and San Francisco, but now this is a fun football. This is going to be a really fun football game on Sunday night that I'm looking forward to as the Niners and Bears get together. I don't know where to go. Because, I think San Francisco does win this just because, Chicago's coming off that emotional high of what they did. Yeah. And now having to travel cross country, play on primetime again. I think the Bears lose this game, but the Bears lose this game close. Like, I don't think they get blown out. I can see a world where this game's kind of like when, they beat Philadelphia on Black Friday. That's the game where everyone's like, hey, the Bears, we got to start taking them seriously. Then they go to Green Bay, have an off day. and then San Francisco kind of like, and then sort of the same thing. Sorry, I'm distracted by Red Panda. But with San Francisco, though, it's like I said, San Francisco, I think, is built to beat anyone, but they can also lose to anyone at any given time.
Yeah, I think San Fran will win, but I've been impressed with the Bears. I tend to be biased against these teams that win a bunch of close games and have a negative point differential, which they were for most of the season. But then eventually, they beat the Eagles in freaking Philly, which was impressive. They do end up beating the Packers. They needed an onside kick. They needed overtime, and it was a 2 games 3-week spot that we talk about. But it was still impressive because the Packers are a good team. But for all those reasons, I think San Fran's going to win. I think San Fran they're the more experienced team. They know they could still get the 1 seed. They could still get the division. So I think San Fran has everything to play for here, and I think that this is a big ask for Chicago. They had a natural advantage in the 2-division game in 3 weeks thing, like we always talk about. And I give them credit for the Philly win, but I think San Fran is probably a slightly better team than Philly at this point. So I think it's a tougher ask than what they did in Philly on Black Friday. That was also a short week. Short week creates some randomness. So I like San Fran here.
Yeah, and even though San Francisco's playing right now and they're traveling, they're gonna have to travel back. They're gonna have to fly back tonight. I think everyone's gonna think, oh, Chicago can get this because of that emotional win. But sometimes you get because here's the thing. This game a lot reminds me of the Patriots, that terrible Monday Night Football game, 2021. They went into Buffalo, the infamous Mac Jones 3-pass game that the Patriots won, and then the next week they laid an egg against the Colts. Jonathan Taylor ran goofy all over them. I can see something similar where I'm not saying that the Bears lay an egg. I just think San Francisco's the better overall team for right now, and Chicago loses this game. But Bears fans kind of look at it as, hey, we can still do this.
Yeah.
Before we just do Monday Night Football quickly, obviously this is the furthest out I've ever previewed a game. It's a week away, but I'm not recording between now and Christmas, so that's it for me. With the Indianapolis Colts, even if they miss the playoffs, do you think Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen are both safe? Because at the beginning of the year, you, Greg, and I just tore them to shreds. We buried them before we had the chance for them to dig themselves out.
I wouldn't fire them, but I worry that they might. And I don't think it's their fault. I don't think they did anything wrong. But unfortunately, there is a world where if they lose out, and they had such bad luck with this Phillip Rivers thing because he's playing so well today, and he played well enough last week, and their schedule was just fucking brutal. They went at Seattle, Niners. Next week they play Jacksonville, and then and then they go at Houston to end the season. It's just that's a really tough ask for any team. And Rivers is doing, I think, the best he can. But unfortunately, I think it is very, very possible that they might get fired because Ballard has had so much time. And it's not fair to Shane Steichen. The mistake, in my opinion, was giving Ballard this much time to begin with. Because I think if Shane Steichen had a different GM, they probably would get another chance. But when you've been a GM for like 9 years or however long Ballard's had the job, it's hard to blame bad luck. It's bad luck this year that Daniel Jones got hurt, that Sauce Gardner got hurt, that Armstead, that DeForest Buckner got hurt. That's bad luck. But it's hard to cry about bad luck when you had 9 years, unfortunately. And I think if they fire Ballard, they're probably going to – it's the same problem the Dolphins have. Why make the next GM keep the head coach for a year where they're probably going to fire him after the next year anyways?
Mike Florio really bought me on the belief of you fire one, you fire both, Because if you keep the head coach, eventually the GM's going to want to bring in his own guy. Look what happened in Detroit. They bring in Bob Quinn. Jim Caldwell it was writing on the wall that he was going to get let go, even though he shouldn't have been. And then look what happened. So, yeah. So, and also the other one I was going to ask you about too, because I saw reports that apparently Andrew Berry's apparently safe in Cleveland. I think Kevin Stefanski's 50-50. I think he's the one coach where it's like the same thing where it's like, I can see him getting fired, but I can also see them keeping him for another year. But next year would be the year I think both of them would go. I think next year's like your seats are going to be really hot.
Well, for as long as we've been watching the NFL, I struggle to remember how frequently a team that wins like 3 games back-to-back years, that head coach is almost always fired. Whether or not it's fair, whether or not it's their fault, whether or not, they were tanking on purpose or they had a bad roster. I just can't remember very many instances where a head coach survives that. And I think Stefanski probably wants out too. Stefanski probably wants a change of scenery. So yeah, I'm with you. I think he's probably gone.
By the way, Danny wants Stefanski for the Jets job. That was one thing when he said that to me on the record. So far, if I'm looking at coaches who would probably be, I think, are on the hot seat or at least are going to be fired or could be fired, I think you put Kevin Stefanski, Zach Taylor, Aaron Glenn, Mike McDaniel, Pete Carroll. I don't think anyone from the NFC North. I don't think Kevin O'Connell. I don't think so.
You know what? Did we talk about Gannon? Jonathan Gannon?
Jonathan Gannon. I was going division by division. So Todd Bowles.
Raheem Morris, maybe.
That's what I was going to get to because they're the Monday night game next week, which the only thing I have to say about that game, I think the Rams are going to smoke them.
Yeah, coming off a loss, the Rams are still the Rams in theory still have an outside shot to win the division. I think it's like if the Niners lose to the Bears, which I'm not predicting it, it's possible, obviously. Yeah. And if the Niners beat Seattle week 18, I think the Rams win the division. I think. Could be wrong on that.
Yeah. But then I think though with Atlanta, it's a complete house cleaning. I think it's both. Because you set the new GM up for failure, but guess what too? Kyle Pitts probably not going to be there next year. You have a running back who's probably going to want $30 million a year, which I know sounds crazy, but he's earned it.
It's going to be, and like especially running backs that play in the passing game too. Like when McCaffrey got that 16-year deal, that obviously is valued very differently now compared to what it was back then. So,
or not 30, but like 20.
Yeah. Throw 20, like 20 or 25 or something like that. But either way, like, and Fontenot already did the all-in move. They drafted Jalen Walker in the first round and then traded the first-round pick for James Pierce. He drafts a quarterback in the first round who had a bunch of ACL injuries in college. Then he tears his ACL with the Falcons after giving another quarterback a free agency $90 million. It's like, I feel like he played the hits. He played the I'm a GM on the hot seat hits. Like he spent a lot in free agency. He traded draft picks, drafted a quarterback in the first round, all the tricks to get yourself more time. I think none of it works. I think the Raheem Morris decision is more than likely not a Fontenot decision. It's like if you fire the GM, then you're firing both. If you don't want to fire the GM, then you probably keep both. Is probably how this is going to go. So
I just think with the Falcons, like, and also too, I'll say this for everyone saying, "Oh, they couldn't get rid of Kirk Cousins." Keeping Kirk Cousins was the best thing the Atlanta Falcons could have done.
Yeah, it gave the second. I mean, they were already eliminated, but it gave the second half of the season some life. It at least gave them a chance.
Yeah, but they also got dealt with some injury stuff too. Like obviously, Michael Penix done for the year. Drake London was out for a good portion of the year. Who I still think not underappreciated, but I still think when he's on, he's on. Like he's also really good for fantasy football, by the way. Drake London.
Yeah. He cost me my league because he didn't play in week 14. But who's counting? I'm not counting. I'm not crying.
But yeah, like, and then with the Rams, they're the same thing where it's just they're going to be judged in January. I just wonder if this is it for Stafford. I know Drake May's been awesome. Stafford is my MVP because I do think, and I said this a couple weeks ago with my other Bills guy, Joe, as we were getting ready for that game, that Stafford's MVP is kind of the cherry on top for his resume to get into Canton, Ohio. It's not like I think he's already in, but this is like what makes him a lock compared to potentially being on what's now known as the Eli Manning waiting list.
Yeah, and even though Stafford lost his primetime game and Drake May won his primetime game in comeback fashion, usually MVPs are decided in late season primetime games.
Yep.
Stafford is still the favorite, even after Drake May's comeback yesterday. So I think that tells you that the voters, not even saying it's wrong, I think the voters just kind of want to give it to Stafford. So I think Stafford will probably end up getting it.
Yeah.
More likely than not.
Yeah, like when I look at and even too looking at this Rams team as well, the defense is ferocious. Stafford's playing great. They have a really good running game. There's really no glaring weakness on this Rams team. Obviously, the special teams coordinator was quietly fired Saturday after, like 48 hours ago. But yeah, like the main thing with this game is just Atlanta is wondering where, because like when you look at the NFC South next year, I don't know which team's going to win honestly, you could probably make a case for any of those teams winning the division.
That's a touchdown. Why is that not a touchdown?
Well, what, the other one?
Yeah.
I don't think he had possession going down. I'm gonna watch you react live in time because
let's go.
There we go.
It's not enough. I still need it's a heroic effort by him. He has 28.8, but I need him to get 5 more points. And I think that's asking too much. I need the Colts. I need the Colts to score like right now, and then I need McCaffrey to break off a long run.
The one thing I will say about this game, though, with this game, I feel like this is one of the best games Brock Purdy's played this year.
I agree. I don't know why the Colts got Buckner back today. I don't know why their defense is playing so terribly.
I don't. I don't know. Just my friend texted me that too. He's like saying, he like texted me, best game I've seen Purdy play. And I'm like, this is why I said with San Francisco before we wrap up. This is why with San Francisco, I don't want to see them come playoff time because you could get this San Francisco team, you're in a lot of trouble.
If they get the 1 seed, they might win. They might go to the Super Bowl. Which I discounted it when they lost Warner and Bosa, and their defense is bad. But man, if they get the 1 seed, I think it's going to be really hard for any of these teams to knock them out in San Francisco. So
where's the Super Bowl too?
Santa Clara. Now I do think
also Kyle Shanahan would win Coach of the Year. I think if they get the 1 seed.
And it could be like when the Packers won the Super Bowl in 2010. Younger fans may not remember this, but it wasn't just that Aaron Rodgers. With Aaron Rodgers, they had a lot of injuries to a lot of their best players. Like throughout that playoff,
unbelievable though.
He was unbelievable, of course, and he was
defense.
Scoring. Yeah, I'm saying the defense led. I think it was the highest scoring defense in the NFL that year. And in the playoffs, they were constantly losing guys. Like they lost Donald Driver at one point, they lost Clay Matthews, they lost Charles Woodson in the Super Bowl. The guys kept getting hurt and they kept winning. And it was weird, it was unexplainable. And that's the closest Super Bowl comparison would be to this year's Niners team, I think. Where you see those injuries and you're like, they can't overcome this. And then they somehow just kind of do. Like no one really knows why.
I'm sorry, but I just opened Twitter for a second and I see a Chiefs account saying, what's your favorite memory at Arrowhead Stadium? And just Patriot fans flooding it going 2018 AFC Championship game.
Oh my God.
It's not me though. It's like the spam account, spam Patriot accounts. Like that's the thing I want to say. Like a lot of the accounts that like troll Bills fans are the ones who like have no face or identity behind them, but it's the same thing for Bills Mafia too. That's why like I like dealing with it. But anyway, it's not here nor there. But yeah, no, I do think with San Francisco, if they get the 1 seed there, I just don't see a world because Levi Stadium, I think, is one of the more underrated, harder places to play in the NFL.
Yep, I agree with you.
Because like, everyone talks about Seattle, they talk about Kansas City, they talk about Buffalo, Denver too. But I feel like going to Santa Clara, like they have a real home environment in that state, in that building.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. It would be a fun place to play.
Christmas episodes are always a long one. Christmas episodes are always a fun one. This one was 2 hours as always. Big Rat and I always chumming it up. First time we had talked though since episode 400, but this was episode number 415. Potentially the last one for 2025. I'll see when I'm recording the next one. Maybe before the end of the year. Maybe not. Maybe more into the new year, which it's the graphic now of Matt Stafford and Bijan Rob. They can't even put Kirk Cousins on the Monday Night Football graphic for next week. For Big Rat 310, I am Griff. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. In case we don't see you before then, Happy New Year as well. Let's unwrap some crappy football games this week in the for Christmas. Just put the games on and enjoy them because before you know it, they'll be gone. Take care, everyone.
Cheers.
Merry Christmas.